But being in a situation where you cannot support yourself, it doesn't matter what if, you don't have to assume that that person could be abusive, the male, the older male in that scenario. You could assume that something could happen to them. They could get in a car crash. You can't rely on one person, even if you are in a traditional relationship. We don't live in a world where it's safe to do that. It's not safe to not have
Grace, there's
any
multiple
money.
points you mentioned. One is that, hey, Quinn, one, you're saying it's not safe. The other, you're saying, what about those women who,
It's Hear
where
me
bad
out.
things
Let me
happen to
let me
them?
repeat that.
Just
It's
because,
not
just because
I'm
women make a
referring to
wrong
women
decision.
because I'm referring to women because your live is about feminism, but I'm referring to anyone. Anyone here. Of any man or woman. It's not safe to not have money to support yourself. Your partner that you rely on and support them, what happens if something happens to them? You're on your own now, and you need to make sure that you have enough money and you have the skills to do that. I don't think that being a 18-year-old girl, not having a car, not having a job, not even knowing how to pay your own taxes, and then being married to a 30-year-old and having a baby, of course I'm going to judge that. What's
Yeah,
wrong
but
with you?
being self-sustainable is different than wasting all of your eggs in a career path such that you become less
I
attractive
don't
to
know.
a large swath of
That's what
men.
a lot of people will say. Ice Queen, what do you got to say, girl?
Yeah, so let me just real quick address what's being said here. No, feminists are not
You have a
making the
wife?
argument that you need to basically sustain yourself before you get married. That's not what they're making the argument. The feminist argument is that you need to be so sustainable that you could never really
So I'm
one
actually a
second.
girl, I'm a
One
woman,
second,
and the
ma'am.
feminist argument to me is about
Grace, hold on.
equality. We should have
Grace, you're
equal
yapping
rights.
at this point. Let me finish a couple of things. You talked for a while.
Go ahead.
So when it comes to what feminists argue for, they don't argue in a way that I would agree with you, which is, hey, you want to make sure you have a level of independence because it's part of being a human adult. Granted,
Mm-hmm.
if you're under your father or your family's tutelage, and they just take
Yeah.
you back as something bad happens, I think that's a fine agreement or fine exchange.
I
But
mean,
for
if you
women who
have
don't,
that privilege,
Grace,
yeah.
so
I'm just agreeing with you. Yeah, a lot of people do have that privilege. A lot of people have family that they can fall
yeah,
back
so
on.
when it comes to the latter, you know, having your wits about you and not being on the government's tit is a good thing too, right? So just maybe having a roommate or
Yeah.
your own house or your own car to get from your job to your home. I think these are cool
Yeah.
things, but this isn't
It's
really what
independent.
feminists are striving to have women be. They want feminists want women to be completely independent from men, completely. So in
I
the scenarios
disagree
you
with
brought
you.
up, when it comes to women picking the wrong man and submitting to the wrong man, that doesn't mean the institution is corrupt. It just means women don't know how to pick good men, or they're not doing the proper safeguards. Because I guarantee you, if a
Right.
woman finds a man in the church, shares the same religious values, make sure her dad vets them, and maybe there's yeah, so the community gets involved, and the person that she chooses, she's more likely to be successful as opposed to people having these isolated scenarios. And the scenario you brought up,
Feels like it makes less sense though, because in that same scenario, the woman that's picking the bad mate, that mate is also picking a bad woman, right? It's equally as destructive.
well, one
See,
fares
I don't
better
think you
off than
guys
the
should like
other.
look at it. I
Violet,
I'm
thanks
not
for the
sure.
heart.
I don't look at life as like mating. I know a lot of people say that, and I know that's like the truth to it. But I really think that it's not that big of a deal. So what if you don't find your person in your 20s or your 30s? So what? So what? Why do men make it seem like such a big deal if I don't have a husband by the time I'm 30? Oh my God, I'm gonna die? No, I'm
You have
not.
less eggs, and you're gonna have less babies statistically.
That's disgusting. I'm gonna go ahead and mute and let you think about that.
Wow,
I think
an
what's
emotional
being
response with
said,
absolutely no counter argument. Feminism
well,
at
no,
its
the emotional
finest.
response
So if I
is
could just finish
let me reframe what's being said,
real
right?
quick. Hold on a
If
second.
we can
So
adopt
does anybody
the
hear me here? Does
position
anyone
of
hear me, or
being,
am I the host talking?
oh, I am so sorry, but
No
I
problem.
do
Just
think that
gonna
you're asking a
respond to
question
how I
that's
was. I'm just responding to her for a second. All right.
right.
So one
Right,
moment.
and I'm muted because that
One
grosses
moment.
me out.
All
Yeah,
right, well,
and
we
I
don't
wanted
give
to
a shit if it
respond to
makes
that
if it gives you
directly.
the ick. We don't
I
care
don't
here.
want
This
kids. I
isn't
want
a
to
safe
adopt
space.
kids.
Well,
Yeah, I
great.
wanted to respond to that directly to what you were saying based off of what you said, not based off of what you're going to say. Because I feel like that
Zero,
right
one
there is.
moment. 1 moment.
Go ahead.
We're gonna let you speak right after, okay? So James, please let me know when I can talk. Remember? Yes, ma'am. Queen. We're gonna have you right after Zero. All right. I'm just explaining how this is how men mate select. Men generally look for fertility in youth. It's because what we find most attractive is that sick. Well, this is the thing. Feminism has done its part in making sure women shame men for their biological preferences on how they choose to deal with women. When you say it's not that serious, well, if you want to find a man in an opportune time, it would be in your best interest to consider how men process these things instead of saying, "Oh, that gives me the ick." But Zero, go ahead. And Memento, thanks for the
I think that
roses.
we're confronting is the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? In this instance, you're saying that resource allocation predicates the need for you to find desirability, right? If this resource is done away with, then that viability precludes me from seeing that as a worthy asset in my alignment, right? And if we say that that is cultural, and we say that, okay, well, if we flip that other end, then that means that women would also think, or at least the women that are choosing partners in that natural selection would think that the resources a man has is equal to how they should judge them. And I think that we're discovering something that we've kind of done away with since like the Middle Ages, right? Since the the goats, since the sheep, since all of that, and we're saying, hey, resource allocation is not necessarily the primary means for a productive and creative relationship. If we choose, we can have a productive and creative relationship with somebody who aligns with our priorities, who aligns with our ideals, and those things are more important than the future of resources that we can give to each other. And I think that's an important thing and people fought for decades, centuries for that specific thing to happen. And for us right now to regard that as nothing, as just a misalignment, that feels so sad to the ancestors that fought for me to have somebody that I love that provides the loving kindness to me that I needed as a child that I now get to preserve as an adult. And that goes into making me the best version of myself. And that way, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
And who is this enemy? What is the friend? Who is the enemy and who is the friend?
So the enemy in the day was resource allocation, right? Needing resource allocation to define how we exist inside of roles and opportunities, right? So me as a black male, even though I don't sound like it, I would have less in the resource department. So that means that I would have less access to resources. If I was to have less access to resources, that would be I have less access to mates. That means that my intellect, even though it could be higher than somebody else's of the same stature, my resource allocation or the appraisal of that allocation could mean that I could not find love.
Okay,
if
and
I
who
wanted
is
to.
the enemy, or who is the friend?
The friend is happiness. If the ultimate goal for somebody who is looking for somebody who could be fertile, who could have resources, who could have kids with, that is friendship. That is alignment. That is whatever else we can attribute to it, right? That's outside of the resource allocation that we attribute to, right? And preference has a huge bearing on that. But you could not have that preference without the enemy.
All right, well, let's let Queen, you're up, ma'am. Welcome back.
Hi there.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, Queen.
Wow.
Wow.
There's a lot to unload there. Well, first of all, no matter how you put it, if you're saying that you are loving somebody and they provide a friendship for you, that is still a type of resource. Whether we want to acknowledge that or not, at the end of the day,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is.
We need
Now,
friendship. Yeah, we need it to survive.
what we have to recognize is no matter what, in a relationship, things are somewhat transactional. Now, does it make it easier if we are splitting? Hey, your role is to provide financially. Your role, keep the house clean. Absolutely, that makes it easier because guess what? You have a man that gets to come home and be a father. Then you have a woman who is not coming home burnt out, taking her anger out because now her and her husband have to get the house clean, the kids taken care of all together. This 50-50 stuff that people are doing nowadays is
I think the
absolutely
role of
not
father
working
is
out.
So if
assigned
everyone could
is
just
antiquated.
I'm not sure if Queen was done with her point, so let's just let her finish that.
100%. I'm saying that the role that you've assigned to
Zero.
father, the thing is
Zero.
antiquated.
Zero. I understand you have a contention, but
James, someone
Let-
said your hair is wavy. I just want to say it is.
I
That
appreciate it.
hair, like, how'd you get it like that?
It
What?
looks like a silk
Perhaps-
scarf.
Perhaps I can
He
answer.
Grow
really
it
would
out, my
go
nigga.
Let's
scarf.
guys, let's let Queen designer plan real quick.
Oh my bad, you smiled a little bit though, so I know
Yeah, I
it's a silk
appreciate
scarf.
the compliments, but you guys did step
Someone,
over.
it was a guy. I like when guys
So
compliment
guys,
other guys.
here's
I like
how I
that.
do things here. I don't
Me
mute
too.
here. I just kick. Okay. So you've been warned. Queen, go ahead. And
Thank you
Grace, would
so
you mind
much,
muting
Tim.
up because you're getting feedback. I'm getting feedback from you, man.
What do you mean feedback? But yeah, sure. I have a fan on. That might be what.
It's a speaker going back into your mic. Go ahead, Queen.
Yeah, but anyways, the father role has not been depleted. Nothing has been depleted. When we are going to go ahead and look at society in general right now, there's a whole lot more women who are wanting the traditional roles. This feminist stuff that has been put onto society has made it to where more women are on SSRIs. More men are now going on to SSRIs. And the only thing in common with both genders is both genders are saying they are experiencing higher levels of burnout. Now, the way to take care of burnout is taking a load off of one another. So if you are more than capable, which you can, we have a bunch of adults teaching children, oh, well, you need to love your job. You could go get your doctors in gender science. I don't know why that's even something people are doing, but they don't use that degree. And they end up working at a Kmart. And that's why they cannot take care of the bills. My son, he's taught trade school. He could make a lot of money in trade school. He could get a good wife, let her be home, and she could handle the home while he's at work. We need to teach our kids to be better rather than making excuses.
Okay.
So, Queen, thank you for that. We're gonna introduce a new panelist here. Let's see, long people.
Yeah.
What's your
It's
age,
okay.
ma'am?
I'm 18.
All right, thanks for coming up.
2000.
Zero, what was your age?
I'm 29.
Thanks for coming up. Antonio, what's your age?
I'm 18.
All right, long people.
Yeah, I'd be making panels like this too if I look like handsome Squidward
Handsome Squidward. All right.
with
I mean, I got the
albinism.
jaw.
You look
jawline.
like
Okay.
handsome Squidward with albinism.
Appreciate it.
Bro,
Well,
you're
you
so
did call me
goddamn
handsome,
ugly.
so appreciate it. Well, what do you look like? Would you mind turning your camera on?
Wait, who's talking?
Doesn't he
person-
look like Squidward with
Girl,
albinism?
no way you're 18 acting like
I don't know.
this.
Chat, what do you guys think? You guys think I look like Squidward?
With albinism?
No, not really.
All right.
Yeah,
You
he
look like
does. Do not
A
lie to
human
him.
being.
All right.
No,
well,
He
Yes,
has
a
a big
human being.
nose. Come on now.
Okay,
Do
and
not
what do
lie
you
to him.
have? What do you have? A hairy puh?
What?
well, I mean, how
Like,
about
low-key,
this? How about this?
girl.
I will allow the insults if you turn your camera
We were
on.
talking chill, and then you came up here.
So long,
You
people.
know, it's crazy you were post about God, but you go in random lives spreading hate. It's crazy.
Do
to
you
me.
have like okay, so like are you like a
Mm.
transgender? Like do you have like a
Interesting.
dick or something? Like
Oh, so
What are they
so,
even
so you're a
talking about?
Christian and you're slandering other Christians? That's crazy
It's
work.
crazy, bro.
Would you? So here's the thing: we're gonna allow
that
your
didn't come
insults
out
to.
of my
We'll allow your
mouth.
insults
That
to
did not
ensue.
come out of my mouth.
We'll allow your insults to ensue, but you must turn your camera on. You have 10 seconds to do so.
Turn the cam on, girl. Let's see.
Turn my camera on. Sure.
Is it coming on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been 10 seconds here.
Psych, nigga, you really thought?
All right. Well, yeah. Have a good rest of your day.
Fries, bro.
Okay.
Well,
so,
James, James, I just want to say I like the waves, bro. We need to bring
Appreciate
them
it.
back for real.
appreciate it, man.
That's all I got, though. Stay blessed, brother.
All right, Antonio. You as well. Take care. 0.
Where'd Ice Queen go?
Perhaps she
She
had
said she
some
had-
motherly duties to attend. No. She's always welcome back up. She's a
Oh,
regular.
y'all- Hello?
Yes, Grace, we can hear you.
Why are there 55 people in here, but nobody on the thing?
Well, they're
They-
interested in what you guys have to say at this point. Hey, would you guys mind getting
They're
the
talking
likes
about your
up?
waves. They're talking about your waves mainly. I'm not gonna lie. That's it. That's it.
Bro got them waves though.
That's
How many baby
literally-
mamas do you
Waves is
have,
a
James?
commitment.
I have no baby mothers. I'm committed to one woman.
What are you mixed with? Yeah,
I'm
I'm
not mixed at
curious
all.
too. Though,
I mean,
Zagan.
I'm
curious.
albino, but I'm sure I have white in me because my parents are
Ooh.
black. Been here
That's
for a
good
while.
shit.
No, you don't
Ancestors
have
were
to have,
slaves and whatnot.
Yeah, me too. We don't have albinism inside of our lineage, but we do have the very light skin. My brother, he looks a little bit like you, except he's more orange colored.
Oh yeah,
we make
he's
fun of
ginger.
him all the time for that.
I hear that's related to albinism in some way. A mental
In
addiction
some
to
ways,
go.
yeah.
All right, so let's go back to this this resource allocation thing. It's still a thing.
I mean,
It's
can
still
I
a
tell
thing.
you real quick something
Yeah,
you said
Grace.
earlier that
Go
I
ahead.
disagree with? I mean, you're talking about, the feminist movement. It's what you said. Tell me what you think the feminist movement is again.
Feminism is the promotion of, or the movement towards equality amongst the genders, with the moving away from a patriarchal system. That would be, excuse me, that would be how the
Well,
West
you-
practices feminism and how
Well,
most
you didn't
feminists
explain.
understand
You did
it.
not say all of that. You said that it wants women to feel like they can support themselves and handle themselves so much that they don't ever need a man. They don't ever
Mhm.
need a man.
Mhm.
And to me, that's not true. I'm not going out here saying, "Oh, I'm a feminist. Oh, I'm a feminist. Feminism this," but equality. Duh. I mean, do we have that today? No. There are women in other countries that can't even go on the street. That's a
Alright.
real thing. So that's a real sad thing that's happening, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I am going to, yeah, we need equality because there are women in other countries, Afghanistan, that cannot go on the. No,
Okay.
that's insane. You know
But
what I mean?
Grace,
That's
you have
insane.
equality right now, right? You have the
I do,
perception
and
of
I'm
equality.
so lucky for that.
I
You know, I'm
think-
so grateful for
I
that,
think
that I
we
live in
have a
America
version of
and I
equality,
have
right?
the right to work to do all of these things that men can do because there are women in other countries that can't, and that's awful. You know, that's
There's
not
still like bodily autonomy you don't necessarily have 100%.
Yeah, I mean, dude, they're trying to take away birth control. Simple fucking
Yeah,
birth
and
control.
that's,
Where
I
at?
think
Where are they trying to
that,
take away
like,
birth control at? Where they at?
Have you not?
I think
Okay.
Well, you're asking a
Texas.
question with a question.
I mean, you're
I'm
gonna have
asking
to
you,
look
where
it
are they
up.
trying to take away birth control? Like,
Well,
do you
no,
consider the
they're-
ability to terminate your pregnancy? Is that what the birth control you're talking about?
I'm talking about birth control as when you take pills, you get an implant in your arm, you get an
Where are they
implant in
trying to
your.
take that away, though? What state?
Honestly, maybe I shouldn't have brought that up because I don't know, but
Okay.
they are. I mean,
Well,
you can look it
don't
up.
know. Well, the burden of proof is on you. That sounds pretty extraordinary to me.
They're
I feel
looking
like that's one of
the
those
fact
things you
that
ask
it's causing
because,
cancer. Look at what Ice Queen said in the comments. Birth control is also awful for women and young girls. They should not be taking it in the first place. So, I mean, I understand, yeah, it can help with your cycle, but it is awful for your body and it comes with a huge packet of things that can kill you.
Okay,
Yeah.
but
For some
then
people.
where are we
So-
trying to? Where are they trying to
Honestly,
prohibit that? What
I
state
can
is
go look
doing
it
that?
up if you do you want me to look it up
I'm
for
open
you?
to hear that. Well, you're the one who brought up the claim. Usually, the people who bring up claims, the burden of proof exists on them, not the ones who are just asking for evidence. So it would be in your best interest to do that, Grace. I'll wait. No problem. We can just continue forward. Human, hum diggity, hum diggity. What up? Hello. He gone. Rami, what is your age, Rami?
Hello. I'm 19.
Hello, Rami. What brings you up today?
I have a question. Why are you anti-feminist?
I'm anti-feminist because I disagree with all waves. But for we can talk about the fourth and the third. I think they've been particularly bad for relationships between men and women. They've been at this point a net negative. The birth rate would reflect that. Are you a feminist?
Feminism is, yes.
Okay.
Feminism is fighting for women's rights. Why is that wrong?
Because, well, I could go many ways with this. Whatever someone thinks is a right is up for interpretation, and it's really up for a vote. And it's and everyone has to decide it because that's the paradigm we live in. Right now, Roe v. Wade has gotten overturned because people interpret that not being a right. So fighting for a right is really not how feminism is defined. It is a result of feminism, but the movement of equality of the sexes between men and women, that is really feminism, right?
What?
Do you know what the definition of feminism is? Because it's not fighting for women's rights. That is incorrect.
If the core of equality is that a portion of it be feminism, and the end goal of feminism is equality for all, why be against it?
Because I disagree with equality. I think it's delusional. And I think a lot of things that come from feminism are delusional, like dating standards and prescriptions around dating. They're delusional. It makes sense that the first, come again?
What about equality do you not vibe with? That's I guess my question.
It's philosophically unsound, and it's a false on its face. Men and women
right
are
now,
not
but
equal.
you're giving me the basis of what you're saying, but you're not actually giving me what you mean.
Okay.
So yeah, you can say that, but tell me what you mean by equality not being or having a basis for something that you can get behind. Because equality seems pretty universal, right?
Well, it's a presumption. It's an axiom that a lot of people share, but I don't grant it because I don't value that as the highest virtue.
Of course, and you don't have any need to grant it. I'm not challenging your want to grant it. I'm challenging what it means to you to define equality for other people and why you feel like it's not necessary.
Equality for other people is really how egalitarians and feminists view it, which is...
No, for you.
Okay,
not for the larger populace, for you. Specifically for you. I understand the fundamental of the...
Equality means to me a level of equity, or egalitarianism to me, it means dignity, equal dignity.
So why does equal dignity feel like it's not right for you?
Well, it does feel right to me. It's what we already have, especially in my Christian paradigm and the civilizations that come from it.
But if other people are saying that we don't experience that equality the same way that you're experiencing it, and we have ways of defining that equality that parallel your experience but divide themselves equally behind what bad thing is happening.
Yeah, so it would just move away from my understanding of equality, and it would be a different set of
so are you saying that people have, because people are individualistic, they have a different definition of equality than you have?
Yeah,
that may differ from your definition of feminism.
Yeah, because
feminism at its core is equality.
I keep equality tied to virtue and duty. Feminism is a rejection of most responsibilities, especially for those that are placed on women.
But it's not.
Yes, it is.
The core of what you defined it as.
What women feel the responsibility to have children at this point? They reject it
vehemently.
What you
defined feminism was not that. So there's two definitions that you're giving. They're giving a social definition, and you gave a relevant definition before, right? And one of those definitions, the relevant definition, described equality as a metric, as an axiom, right? The other things that surrounded it, like that's the same way of saying Protestants are wrong for the way that they look at evangelicals, right? There are different factions that branch off of an idea, but the axiom is equality.
The axiom is Christ, right? For the Christians.
Well, no, well, for the Christians on some of them, but some of them
Most
they
of them.
regard Paul as more of a. Well, I would disagree. Again, like I think
without
Paul
getting
has a
into
major.
theological discussion. Let's
Yeah.
just reset. Grace, thanks for the follow. So when it comes to what most feminists would agree on, it is the movement of equality amongst the sexes. Would you agree to that definition?
Are you talking to me?
Well, zero, but if you want to chime in, feel free.
Oh, my bad.
It's all good.
Equality, yeah, I think that's what we're all striving for because there's sometimes a lack of it. I mean, I can think back to my childhood growing up as a girl.
Well,
Not always the best,
Grace.
right? But then again, you as
Well,
a
madam,
boy,
Grace,
there's
I
things
was
too
asking.
there.
I was asking really to. It was a part of a further line of questioning. So I'm asking
Let me
that.
retort.
So if you can agree that feminism is the movement of equality, that means you're going to.
100%.
So
but
Grace, you got
not all
headphones?
people view
Do
it
you have
that way.
headphones? You need to put some headphones on.
Girl, I got AirPods on.
You have AirPods on right now because right now it's feedback and it's getting a bit.
No, I don't have them right now.
Can you put your
Okay,
AirPods
hold
on
on.
because right now the feedback is really bad.
What I would do, Grace, is lower the input volume. So right now your volume is just a little bit too high, and it's feedbacking into what we can hear. So if you lower the volume of other people like myself and the host, then we won't hear that. We won't hear the feedback. But if you
Okay,
have
I
headphones,
turned my fan off. Does it help at all or no?
Well, when you
Yeah.
talk and when I talk,
it doesn't
it's-
help.
the
It
feedback.
doesn't
No.
help because
Well,
of
I'll just
the.
head out because
So Grace,
Yeah.
Well, no,
Grace,
I
here's
did
your option,
audio.
Grace. I love to have you on, but you need to put your headphones on so that you can eliminate the feedback.
this is giving like Addison, right? Put your headphones on, cause like you know that song. Does anybody know that song? Girl, I'm sure people in the comments do.
I'm listening to it though. I'm down for it.
I mean, sure.
Put it in the
can
comments so I
I'll
can
be
listen to
back.
it.
All right, Grace. So come back up when you have some headphones, okay?
Can I give some input?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, when you were talking about how, feminism strives for equality, or I think Grace really was, but you guys were both talking about that. In my opinion, I think that seeking equity for women and just everybody in general is more effective at making everybody happy, and that's why I kind of agree with your prompt.
Wait a
Like, I
minute.
want to know what you think about that.
Equity. I don't like no damn equity.
That's wild coming from somebody who is African descent.
Yeah, that's true. I don't like no damn equity.
What does
I
that
think
mean
it's
for you?
worse than equality. Because
What does that mean for you, though?
it's equity is the push towards making things have a similar result, an equal outcome. You have to have
No,
heavy
that's-
state usage
It's
in
a
order to get
different
that.
definition.
So
Wait,
how
but,
it's
like-
how it's applied is what I'm most concerned about. Feminists and whoever wants to
Right,
posit
but the
some type of
application of the
anybody who wants to
mobilization
market
of
an
it is different
idea
from
is
the
one
equity
way, but
definition.
how it's applied is really what I take issue with. It just so happens that feminism,
Yeah,
I
I'm
disagree
saying-
with
I'm just
principally,
saying
but
that
its
the-
effects are also just as bad.
Yeah. The only thing
Well-
I'm saying is that the definition of what you gave was inequitable to the application that you've applied it to. Like it lacked a fundamentally the same definition for what it would be, and you're applying it differently than the engagement necessitates. Right? It's just for me, it's precision in language, and that's probably the ADHD in me. And
That's
I
fine. If you
apologize for
disagree with
that.
the definition, that's fine. We can engage in that. I don't have any problem with make sure we can come to an agreement on the definition. But equity,
Yeah.
I'm gonna look up the Webster's definition here. Of fairness or justice in the way people are treated.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I'll have to go for now. I'll be back later.
All right. Freedom from disparities in the
Back
way
later.
people
See
are
you in a
taken care.
second.
Freedom from disparities in the way that people of different races, genders are treated. Disparities. That's what I'm explaining. The qualifier for how people apply equity is how they view disparities. They will try and correct those or make them on par with
Oh yeah,
the one
what
being
I just
with
wanted
the
to
one
acknowledge that is
disparaging.
different than your definition of equity than that you presented. Like it for me, it doesn't feel like it entirely encapsulated what the definition that you gave was. So if we can allow the audience to gain a perspective of what you meant by equity versus the definition that you just read.
All right, well, here's the thing. Fairness or justice in the way people are treated. This varies
And you
from
would appreciate that fairness and justice is something that you want.
based on my worldview, not someone else.
Okay.
Because fairness is subjective, justice is subjective. People's perception of how someone is treated is subjective as well. So it would stand to
Right. And
reason
freedom and
it
freedom in
has
this
a
case
go
is
ahead.
also subjective.
Correct.
But I don't think that
Yeah.
equality between men and women is something that's healthy, because I would disagree that, and a lot of women I talk to would disagree that they don't have the same initiatives as men. They don't want the same responsibilities or roles as men, and I feel like that's something that most people would agree with, being truthfully honest. And so that's why I want to ask you is like, do you think that equality between men and women is healthy in general?
If it's paired with virtue and dignity, yes. But if there's no duties with it or responsibility, I'll give you an example.
But who allocates that duty and responsibility?
The state does. The relationships between men and women, the culture at
But
large.
why would we allow the culture or state? Because then that means that freedoms can be adjudicated however they decide, right?
But
Like
that is
faction
the
power.
result of having a godless state and culture that the secularists and
Well,
the
no, we've
leftists
seen
encourage.
the result of God-centered cultures, right? Like the Salem witch trials. We can all agree that that kind of was a weird.
I'm not so sure. If people are hunting people who are having ABs, so we're going to contend on that. Let's just get back to the point.
I think that is a relevant branch of the point.
No,
And that may just be my.
here's how we'll tie it back. Okay. When you talk about the systems that we have set up, feminism is a part of that, right? It is a moral prescriptor or an argument on how we ought to live. So it applies a moral framework on how we apply politics and relations between men and women, correct?
So are we saying that morality as a bracket for how we engage in political and social axioms are important?
Well, yeah, and that's why feminism makes sure that the personal and the political are always tied together.
Well, in that way, Christianity does the same thing.
Okay,
That's
so
why
therefore
I
furthering the
framed
point
it the
that there are
same way.
moral prescriptions that are being made on society. So when we talk about what feminism is doing, it is a system that is anti-patriarchal by its function and how it functions in the West.
The moral prescriptions are theological and they differ often.
True, but how they're applied are similar. How they enforce,
Not all the time. No.
All right, well that's fine. It doesn't need to be all the time. It just needs to be for the topic of this discussion, and I'm explaining how
Right,
it's
but
enforced.
for the topic of discussion, precision is an axiom for us, right?
All right, so I'll be precise here, and I'll give you an examples. When we're talking about how feminists apply enforcement, they usually do it by either using the government or manipulating emotions. They will say,
But that's not the that's the social expectation of
if
feminism.
you're just going to fight every premise, like
well,
we're just going to
no,
get into
that's
many
relevant. The social
contentions,
expectation
but I haven't
of
even made an
feminism
argument
is-
yet.
You just made an argument by saying that feminism as a large does this singular thing, and I'm
Yeah,
saying
you're correct.
that's the social implication of feminism. But the relational implication of feminism is different. The definition of feminism that you just read is different than the social application
Okay,
that
so
we were
explain to me
experiencing.
how it differs. Please explain to me how how this social application is different from the understood conventional definition. Please explain.
How it is different?
Yes, you're making the claim. Please explain that.
Okay, so what you claimed was that these things are happening because of feminists. These things are happening because of feminine ideologies or feminist ideologies infiltrating the social and political landscape. And I'm saying that the idea of feminism doesn't say that. That may be the actual reality of what's happening right here, but we're looking at the idea of feminism, the definition of feminism, and they are two different things. The social application of feminism and the rational application of feminism are two separate things that you have to engage with individually. If you don't, then you're not actually engaging with the premise that feminism is or isn't a bad thing.
So if I understand you correctly, you're saying people can look at equality and agree with it, at the feminist cause, but how they apply is not what you would define feminism as, correct?
The same way that we look at Christianity throughout the years, right?
Yeah, but
Both of
it's
us
based
have
on
been
a fundamental misunderstanding of equality, because it's it's not
Well,
it's not
I
a
agree.
misunderstanding, it's a literal falsehood. And because
So,
men
like,
and women are not equal,
those same
this is just going to be a result of it. Whether what they're doing is applied feminism, I don't care at this point. The reason why I don't is because even if they are, it's still bad for me.
Right. We had in the days of our ancestors, we had a slave Bible, right? Do you remember that?
What is your point, man? What does race
Uh,
have to do with the sex argument right now? Please
well,
explain.
no, sex equality, they all engender themselves to the same thing,
Yeah, but
right?
they're not the
We're
same.
looking
Sex and
at,
race are not the same.
but we're looking at the way that we decide division lines socially, right?
These are not
in
social
that way,
divisions, though. These are biological differences
but
that
biological
speak to
difference,
speciality and capability.
right?
This is different
Biological
than
difference
race.
back in the day
Black
said
men
that
can
the
be in the
Negro,
army, white men can be in the army, Asian men can be in the army, and they can all
right? But
collectively
according to
enforce rights from
eugenics,
women, but women cannot ever do this. So this is a
according to
literal
eugenics,
this is a
the
literal
whole reason
specific
that we
difference
had
between race and gender that I'm talking to you about.
right
So I'm explaining to you how it's
now.
irrelevant. You're applying apples and oranges
No,
in this analogy.
no, I'm not. I'm saying that history defines it differently, and history defining it differently means that in the place of eugenics, they said that the Negro skull could not actually hold the amount of information that would be needed for him to be a docile and
Great. So
you
what was
know,
so what
relevant
did the
individual,
reality
right?
correct? What did the reality correct from
The
that?
reality was, so in that way we had the slave Bible. That's why we engaged with the slave Bible, right? That was a different interpretation of the Bible in order to keep enslaved people and to
Okay.
keep them enslaved inside of a tradition, right? That both garnered the will of the master and left inequality as a subject, as a primer to giving people the license to do what they did, right? That's historically bound. We can't divorce that from our history. We can't literally divorce it from our genetics, right?
You can divorce it from
In
genetics
that
because
same way,
a social construction doesn't really it's independent from, or genetics is independent
they did
from
tests on this. They said literally, if you tie an elephant to a post in the first years of its life, that elephant will not go further than that post. That's just science. That's not me creating something like crazy, right? That's a thing that happened, and they proved it, and that's what they did in accordance with the
Yeah, but
Negro
elephants
Bible,
aren't
and
humans,
that's
so I'm not understanding your analogy. Just what was
the
the point?
analogy is that social conditioning predicates how we individualize ourselves, right? If you look at Carl Jung, right? Carl Jung was maybe I'm getting too far out.
Yeah,
And,
you're getting
pause me
very
if
far
I
out.
am.
We're getting off from the weeds here. What's
Okay,
your point?
so Carl Jung was a philosopher after the tradition of Freud, who said individualism or individuation is one looking at the shadow aspects of themselves and then going into the light, right? In order to have individuation, you had to have an individual mindset about how freedom applied to you. And if we do not apply the same freedoms to everybody, then we have a different definition of freedom. And if you say that the feminist movement, the core of it is to give equality to everyone, to allow everyone to have that same definition of freedom, then that's a good thing. And if you're saying that socially it is interacted dangerously with how I want to live, that's a second thing.
All right. So what's being prescribed is different from what the reality is.
Every time.
All right. So
E-
the reality.
evangelical
Okay, great.
Christians,
So I'm glad we can come to that
Protestants.
agreement. Glad we can come to that agreement. So what's being prescribed is feminism, and the reality is men and women are not equal. And there's a specific,
No, the reality is that
specific
you are
reason this
equal.
is because men enforce the rights that women enjoy at this point, and throughout all of history. So if
And
men are effectively the
history
ones
doesn't
granting the
change.
rights, then this prescription that women are positing is delusional, because you
Mm-hmm.
can't appeal to the rights
No, if you look at
without assuming that it gives you its permission. It actually does. Men at large do give women the permission to have any rights anywhere, all the time.
if you look at any of the female prophetic entities in the Old Testament, then you could not have that.
Esther was appealing to what? A king. So what are you talking about? Mary
Ruth
was appealing
was-
to what? Her husband and God, a
Ruth?
patriarch, the ultimate patriarch. So what are we talking about here? These are still patriarchies.
They're only patriarchies because they benefited that society at that time.
No, they're not. Well,
It doesn't benefit socially anymore.
there's what other way could society benefit such that men are not the ones enforcing the rights of women? What society what society are you talking about? And please don't point
What
to me one that's
society am
gotten
I-
its ass handed to it by another patriarchal society.
No, history is written by the victors, right?
Yeah, and whoever's the victor is the one who's most capable of winning. So
Right. So that says that the entire group of slaves that came, they were not artisans, they were not agriculturalists, they were not people of color who knew how to turn land from desecration into profitability, right? That means that every history book that we ever had collectively says that we are less than as a culture. They would be
and
right.
who's we? Are you talking about the horticultural, the
No,
livestock
I'm talking
herders?
about
What are we talking about? Who's
the-
we?
The post-African male.
All right, man. Well, perhaps you and I can have a debate, but at this point, you're going so far off the weeds sometimes. Like, if we don't have a moderator to really
everything is
ring you in,
related.
it's just like, what the hell are you talking about, man?
Also,
If you engage individually with what I'm saying, then you can go back to it. But if you don't, you probably can't, and it's okay.
Yeah, I just can't.
if history is written by the winner, how can you base any of what you think off of history, knowing that it could be fraudulent at any point?
Because I look at multiple
I'm not
areas
saying
of
you,
history. I look at multiple areas of history or multiple speakers of history to make it less biased, to have cross reference. And it's currently
you could-
apparent that patriarchies are really the only ones who have the most competitive function. They're the ones who are the most benefit. They're the ones who benefit women the most, actually.
Everyone benefits more when it is a patriarchy. But yeah, and my point was this guy talking about Africa and going back way back then. But the base reality is you don't have to look at history. You don't have to look at anything. You just have to look at the biology and the reality that we're in. And men, like you were saying,
That's how eugenics happened.
have given and fought for, worked for the rights that women have today. And it's a good thing. And at any point, if men really decided to, they could decide tomorrow to take all that back. And the fact that where we're at with feminism or like women being so aggressive and thinking that everything's just taken for granted. Anyways.
I don't understand why everyone wants a less aggressive female. For me, my girlfriend
because it's
is
gay.
the most.
It's gay.
Dog. She tells me all day. I say the gayest shit. I'll tell you one of the gayest things that I said earlier.
Well,
I said,
please keep it TOS. Please keep it TOS. Zero.
No. I'm gonna say it because it's great.
Zero. It must be TOS, man.
It was that I close my eyelids and I think of you, and I
that's
see
not
your
gay.
picture every time I smile. And she said that was the gayest shit that I've ever said, and I was like, I guarantee you, I got gayer coming through.
Perhaps your girl is more rough around the edges and maybe a little bit more masculine.
100%. But my girl, she does not need me. She does
Well,
not
that would be
need me to
false.
defend.
Why are you
No.
saying though that you is it a personal preference that you think other people should appeal to, that you think that we need more, what is it you said, aggressive women? Like what
No,
is
I'm
that
not saying
supposed to
so.
mean?
No, I'm
Well,
saying
then
my
how does it
personal
add to the
preference.
conversation if you're talking about your minority thing that you understand shouldn't be the general rule? Why does it move the
Well,
conversation?
I'm saying that I don't think that for the most part, women would see aggressiveness as a problem.
Men do though,
And
because it's generally not something women have. Women are not generally aggressive because they don't have
no, I
they
disagree.
generally
If
don't have the
you, I've had
well, they're not
female friends
aggressive
my
in a
entire
certain
life.
way. Like women can be verbally manipulative or perhaps
And this is where I push back.
emotionally
I've had friends
controlling.
that.
That would be akin to their nature, but aggression, like
No, I'm a lifelong
male
martial
aggression.
artist. Like I've been doing martial arts for a long time, and my friends who got me into it were females.
All right.
And
Once again, another not only an anecdote, but you know
anecdotal
damn well
experience.
most women are not the ones doing martial arts, right?
And also I have been doing martial arts my entire life as well. Boxing and Muay Thai, competed in both. Like, bro, all the women I know that competed were very good, but like generally speaking, anecdotally, they are still feminine in nature, which makes them softer. So like I'm not sure what your point is with that. Like, and it's not a majority
I
thing.
would say that any female that practices Muay Thai is less feminine than the second bracket of that. Like any girl who doesn't choose Muay Thai as a passion, way more feminine.
Yeah,
And
I
think that
I can agree with you there,
Well,
but that doesn't mean that the women are not. That doesn't mean that the women are not feminine. It just mean they're perhaps less feminine.
That's what I'm saying. Is I'm saying that there's no distinction between a male and feminine, a masculine and feminine energy that would make a female, someone who is biologically female who chooses that, less feminine in my
What if
estimation.
she's okay? Well then, all right. So if a woman is male presenting, does that make her less feminine?
No,
Then
not
do
if
you not understand that this? Okay, so then what is the point of masculine and feminine? There's no distinction. You don't think
the
there's
point
any
of masculine
distinction?
and
Is to
feminine
you?
is
Is there
to.
any distinction between masculine and feminine things?
Well, I think energetically, yes, but I also think that what it does is it allows people to understand how energies flow. And if an energy flows in a specific direction, then people can categorize that. And we need to categorize that. You need to
We do need
categorize
to
yourself
categorize that,
as
especially when it comes to the fact that we are opposites or attracted to each other. Generally, men are into women and vice versa. So it stands to reason that the definitions have a functional purpose. And so when
Of
you talk
course,
about
they have a functional
energies,
purpose.
yes, if a person
But like, what
has
is
a
the
certain
functional
energy
purpose
about
of
them,
being
it stands to reason that they're going to express that physically. It's going to show out
100%?
some way. Okay, so then if a person is male presenting, then it would stand to reason that they would be less feminine by your own definition. Right?
Okay, so does it make sense that because of your albinism, you are less Afro presenting?
No, because we're talking
That's
about.
not a choice.
Thank you.
I agree. It's not a choice.
Okay, well, a woman didn't choose to be born, but she does choose how she expresses the energies that come out of her, right?
Do you choose how you express your African nature?
Yeah, I do. I don't talk like a nigga sometimes, or most of the time I don't.
Right? I don't either.
All right.
Right?
So
And
that would be a way where they're the same. So a person. So going back to what I'm explaining, that's the same in this analogy is if a woman was male presenting, she would be expressly less feminine by how she's choosing to show up because
only if we
it's
define
informed by.
feminism in that same way. If I was to say that your lack of pigment defined you as less Afrocentric, then I would be wrong.
Yeah, but yeah, you're correct. It would be an immutable trait. That's correct. But it's not
Right.
immutable for it's not immutable for women or anybody to pick feminism. What are you talking about?
I'm just saying that somebody who is presenting a different way can also be something different. And our social allocation of that fact has no bearing on whether or not they are.
Yeah, but
right?
it has it
And
does
that
the
in
social
that same
application
way,
has
I
bearing
think,
on how they want to organize society because when we're talking about
but
morals and preferences,
does it have any if
does
you say the N-word
uh-huh.
right now,
Nigga.
right? So people can look, they can come on this live and they can look at you and they can feel a certain way, right? And they would be wrong. 100% wrong. More than 100% wrong.
Uh-huh. But the reason why I'm
That's
bringing up
that's the difference in presentation. That's
no,
100%
here's the
you
thing.
exemplify
I can
the outlier
understand. I can,
inside of this role.
bro. If a feminist is not acting like a feminist, if she ascribes to feminism, and you in hindsight is going to say, "Oh, she wasn't really acting like a feminist," it's not relevant. The reason why it's not is
How do
because
you act like a feminist?
the reason why it's not relevant is because we have to understand how things are prescribed versus how they are behaved and how they are acted on. So when it
100%.
comes
But
to
does
how
somebody
people do a
can
thing,
somebody say that the
it's
way that I
irrelevant how they
speak
market
is
it,
less
especially if it
African?
becomes antagonistic to their own goals. It doesn't matter to me.
100%. What I'm saying is somebody saying that you cannot be black because you speak in full sentences and use 5-syllable words. Does that make sense?
I don't think literacy defines like black
100%. But
culture.
who gets to gauge whether or not at what position we define
Well, we would
this
have to take
thing?
people at face value. If I tell you
But
I'm black,
at
you
face
would
value,
generally
then
say,
your
okay, well that's
algorithm
kind of
sees
strange.
you.
Let's look at his parents, and I think further investigation seems warranted to me, especially how white I am. But when it comes to
100%.
feminism, if
That's
a
what I'm
feminist
saying.
is saying, "Oh, I'm a feminist," I'd say, "Okay, well, what are your ideas?" And then, what type of creeds do you ascribe to? Is it similar to feminists? Okay, well then she is. There's
We
a
don't do
wide
that.
spectrum of feminism, but what it does is they rally around a creed called equality amongst the sexes, and a lot of their principles and how they practice things stem from that. If it's different, and there's a spectrum of difference, that still doesn't mean that they're not feminists. You have TERFs right now,
I
and you
agree.
have inclusionary ones who want to involve the trans people. So they're both feminists, though.
I agree. We are
Okay,
both
well
black.
then,
Whether or not I
so then
sound
your
black or whether
entire
or not you
argument
look
about how
like
I'm
me, we're both black.
mischaracterizing feminism is incorrect.
No, I'm saying that choosing the definition of feminism socially, where you're saying, oh, these bad things have happened, bad things have happened as a result of both of us being in a position of blackness, right? I go to a store, I get followed. You might not go to a store and you might get followed. We
Yeah, I
are
probably got
both
some more white
equally,
privilege.
right. We are both equally black, right? And you're probably more black than me. You got waves, I got
Yeah, but
locks.
our experiences are different. But we're not talking about an immutable trait called blackness, and I'm not characterizing feminism as an immutable
Why
trait
not?
akin to women, because there are
Why
women who are
not?
on my side. There are women who support me. There are women who disagree with
But
this
why
shit.
is it not an immutable trait?
Because to be a feminist involves your moral perspectives on what you think reality should be. That is not immutable. That's more
Well,
religious,
it's
or it's more cultural, it's
right,
more
but it's immutable
political.
for us
It's
to
not
define
immutable.
blackness in our own ways, right?
No, because I'm black and I'm not no goddamn leftist. I'm sure you are.
I 100%, yeah.
Okay,
No,
so
like
then
that's not a
our moral prescriptions on life is not immutable. It's based on our experiences or whatever, or our moral preferences,
right, but our
whatever.
blackness is.
Okay,
And
but a
feminism,
woman, but you can't. Okay, so explain to me then. Are you trying to make the argument that feminism is immutable to the woman's experience? Because that's a crazy tall ass order, man.
is it?
Well, you're asking the
Help me
question. Is that the
understand.
argument you're making? Maybe you're not.
Well, no, you asked the question. I'm saying help me understand
Well, it
that
sounds like that's what
position.
you're implying, because I know women who are more feminine who are not feminists. Hell, there's a lady named Shay who doesn't like me anymore. She was on here talking about divine femininity and all that stuff. She ain't no damn feminist.
Okay, so help me understand the position that you've said just now, without examples. Like Shay, I don't know.
Oh, right, my bad. So I'm just explaining that there are many women who have different experiences, perhaps different moral preferences, who don't subscribe to feminism, thus making feminism not an immutable trait that extends from women.
But do you think that most women, given the choice, would choose equality?
Hmm.
I don't think so at all,
But are you a
personally.
woman? Because
Am I
every
what?
woman that I've ever talked to has said, yes, absolutely, nigga. I choose equality over everything. And I'm like,
I
okay,
think I
well,
think
why
you I
don't we
think you
tell
have
other
a
people
fair
that?
point to say perhaps half a woman, which is. Do you think it's more than
Even
that?
if it's more, even if it's less than half, right? And if 1% of the 1% of slaves decided that it was for us to be considered people, we would not be in the same position. There
If
were hundreds of thousands of slaves that decided that, you know what, this is our lot in life. And then the other like 7% decided that no, this isn't right. Equality is for us.
yeah, but here's
Wait,
And
here's the
now
symmetry breaker here, because I can agree with you. If it just meant a certain amount of people who band together, if it was a minority, they could have got something to change their state of affairs. Is that what you're saying?
no, I'm saying whether or not it got them to change the state of affairs, I'm saying the ideology is the axiom.
All right. So the ideology is the axiom is not what I'm talking about. We're trying to discuss whether or not feminism is immutable to being a woman. You haven't really gave a case for that at this point.
Well, I did. I made a one-to-one comparison. I said, so if you know, 1 out of 5 slaves decides that slavery is in his best moral and objective position to be in, and the other 5 decided, hey, or the other 4, because he would be part of the 5, decided, hey, I don't think this is a morally objectionable position to be in. I would choose equality as a basis. Does that make that one slave the one that's, you know, tipping the scales? Or do we side with the people that are saying, whoa, you know what?
The
I would
majority of
also
people,
like equality.
yeah, you would,
Or even
you
if it
would.
was
But here's the
4 to
thing.
5 to 1.
Okay, so you
The,
haven't made the case for immutability. You're just talking now about people voting as in a democratic way
what
to
I'm
have a
saying
moral a
objectively,
moral a moral uh, movement. That's not immutable.
well, objectionably, if people decided that, if one person decided, hey, this is a moral failing of society and justice, that we are considered less than human, 1/5 a person, um, I would like to pursue different levels of equality. I will die for that, and I will pursue that until we get to a place that both of us, literally the two of us, get to have this conversation. And both of us, because we're both working as a disparity, right? I sound like a podcast bro who doesn't sound black, right? And you look like somebody who doesn't look like. Aside from those waves, those waves are pretty fucking great. I can't say
Appreciate it.
enough about them waves. Um, I hate them. I don't want to see them because I'm jealous.
I just
I don't
just
have
just
that
cut your hair short, man,
capability.
and wear a wave cap. Put some oil in your hair.
I can't wear the wave cap. It's too destructive to me. I am short though. I'm 5'7", so like I'm not that tall.
All right, so
Um,
you're saying there's a minority of people who said they didn't like their state of affairs. They thought it was unjust. So therefore,
they acted,
hmm
and that unjustness was rectified to some level, right? And that allowed us, as people who would have been maybe not even a product of the environment, because I don't think that we specifically would have inherited that role just based on genetics, right?
all right. So
Um,
just because a certain minority of people said that they don't like the thing, they changed the thing. So therefore, what? It's good, or
do you objectively think that your role in society is good?
um, based on your rendering of how things went, if I reason with it, yeah, I think it's good. The
Okay.
difference is it's not it's apples and oranges again, because men
How
and
is it apples
women
and
coming
oranges?
together to make a certain thing happen is different than women doing it on their own.
Well, no, because now we have to assess the realism of the population, right? Like 13% of that population of women were black.
All right, a minority.
35% of that population are other minorities. Then
Yeah,
you
but
have the
we're talking
other.
about women and whether women should have this equitable or movement towards parity in authority, status, economics as men. That's a difference. The difference is
How?
this is women making the claim against men. It's not everybody in the same boat trying to get this thing. It is women trying to get this thing first and
Right.
foremost. And because of
And
that,
I'm
it is an
saying
apples
that
and
those-
oranges analogy. The reason why it's
I'm
apples and
saying that
oranges
those
is
same
because
men-
the reason why it's apples and oranges is because black slaves, if they were men, could have overthrown. If they there's been a historic evidence of black people overthrowing their slave masters.
And then
There has never been any story of women overthrowing the will of men through force. There's
But why
never
does
been
it
such
need
a
to be
story. So
Why-
that's the difference.
Why does it need to be a story? Why can't we just be like, you
Because-
know what? I see you as an equal.
Because we need to have evidence of this. And if we don't have evidence, that speaks
Well,
volumes
why
to
does
its
it need to be a
silence.
story? That's the crazy
Wait,
thing.
Well,
Zero. Do you not think
I mean-
that men and women, or like that women have biological and instinctual differences from men that are significant
Okay.
enough to say that equality isn't necessarily like the best thing for
No.
women?
No, I wouldn't say that at all.
So men are
That's
not generally
wild.
stronger than
How
men are not
so,
generally
dude?
stronger than women, right?
But how are we measuring? Are we measuring from strength or are we
Muscle
measuring from
mass.
intellect? But why?
Because this is a force I'm talking to about that all your societies depend on.
I understand that, but I'm saying that the entire view of feminism is that the patriarchal view of masculine and feminine energy says that strength is the axiom and intellect is not. And that same level
So
of
straw man.
intellect
That's a straw man.
is what allows us to be considered slaves in a
That's a
different
straw man.
generation.
The straw man. Men can
It's
be
not a straw
masculine.
man.
Men can be masculine and I'm sorry. Men can be strong and intellectual. Hell, it
Yes,
actually multiplies the
But
strength.
if they are not intellectually strong in the system that you provided
No,
right now,
if
they are not physically
mincing
strong,
the words. I didn't say
then they do
intellectually
not
strong.
deserve a place.
Right. So women can be as smart as they want, but if men said you're going to get back in the kitchen tomorrow, there's a historical case that could be
But are
made
you saying that
they
the
won't
men
have
that
any
are not
remedy.
physically
So if I could just
strong
finish
do
here,
not deserve a
if I could just finish, women can be as smart as they want, but on a balance of probability, using all of history to prove my point. If men decided women get back in the kitchen, you ain't voting no more. Hell, you ain't even working. They don't have any other remedy outside of appealing to other men.
But that's only because your
Can we
physical
get back to
factor
that?
allows you to have that. That's the crazy part.
The
If
crazy
we
part
were
is
in the
what?
same room, the crazy part is if we were in the same room, how tall are you?
6.
You're 6 foot.
Yes,
How
sir.
much experience do you have in mixed martial arts?
None.
Yeah. I'm only 5'7". I'm 270 pounds. I have 10 years of experience in martial arts.
You're obese.
right?
Yeah, just let
But
them live.
that
Let
only
them live.
means
Just let them
that
keep going.
no, I'm not a beast. But it means that if we were to get in a room and I was like, let's fight,
Uh-huh.
there's a higher likelihood that you at a bigger stature had that. If we were looking at force multipliers, you would probably have a better chance. But my training says, my intellect says that there's no way that you would ever defeat me in
All
a
right, that's
battle.
fine. That's fine. But
That-
but once again, you're
But
not
that
only
means
straw
that my
man in a position.
intellect is stronger.
I never
No,
said
that
that
means
men and
that-
women. I never said men can't overthrow men. I never said that. And I didn't. And I
No,
also
but
didn't
what you're
say.
saying is-
I'm also not talking about individuals here. I'm talking about as a collection. That was my
Yes,
argument.
but I'm saying as a collective, leverage applies, right?
Right.
There's an intellectual leverage that I have, and there's a physical leverage that you have, and the intellectual and the physical leverage that I have would even if it's like 1 to 5 from people in this live right now saying that I would probably defeat you,
You
they are
might.
all wrong.
But you might,
Right.
because that's because we're men,
No,
and our
it's the
strength is our
probability
actual.
says
But here's
that.
the thing: our strength is an equalizer. Oftentimes,
I have a
we've
question
seen men.
regarding that.
Well, real quick, we've
It's
seen
not,
men
though.
we've seen men that are shorter than others and way less than others completely knock taller men out. Right? We've
But
all
why?
seen that all.
Why do they do that?
Because of our strength. It's the strength. But here's the
No,
thing:
it's not because of strength. Because of strength was the only metric.
it's not the only measure, but the strength. If you didn't have the strength, you really wouldn't have been able to stand a toe. This is why you typically don't see women who are much smaller than men knocking
not-
them out. I'm explaining
have-
to
Hence
you.
why we
I'm
have
explaining to you
weight
the
classes
symmetry
for
breaker.
that. We-
So when it comes back
You
to
know
the
that. We
do.
symmetry, when it comes back to the symmetry breaker, I want to ask you a question. Would you consider feminists of our time, or the ones that you look up to be probably the higher intellectual individuals?
100%.
Okay,
Why?
well then, if the
Because they
best,
have
if the
this-
best and brightest,
Hold
that
on,
if the
let me
well,
answer-
I'm
let
asking
me
you a question
answer
to get
why.
a point. So if the best and brightest that you subscribe to, if all they can give you is living in societies where they fucking beg for rights and petition to men, that's the best they can do, then the elephant in the room is that's all they can do. That's all they can do is appeal
the
to
elephant
men.
in the room is that we're having conversations with people that are not intellectually smart enough
Right. My
to
intellect.
spar with them.
It's actually
Right.
been
So
shown
my
that
big oonga boonga brain makes it so if in 13 states we say you ain't got no goddamn rights to abortions, you ain't got them. Apparently they're not smart enough to outsmart the caveman with the Billy Club who says you can't do X.
Well, power is distributed inequally, right? Especially now.
Because we're men and we have the monopoly on
no,
force.
because if we were men in the same room, you would be the girl next to me.
No, I would have a better chance at overthrowing my
one-to-one,
state of affairs
no.
than women, because in all of history,
No,
from
if we were in a
one second,
bout of
so
physicality,
if you're
you
going to
would be the
contend,
girl
let me
compared to
respond. When it comes to a minority of men overthrowing the majority of men, that's happened in history. When it comes to poorer men overthrowing the richer men, that's happened. When it's come to poorer countries and less well-off countries and less networked countries overthrowing other countries of men, that has happened. When it comes to other races, whatever, the men have been the underdog, and they have overthrown their state of affairs, whether it be revolutions, upheavals, coups, etc. Women cannot do this throughout all of history. They've never done it.
Distribution was different, though. The
If
only
the
reason
distribution
that
is different, then we are not equal. You're only undermining your own argument.
Well, no. The argument is saying that the firepower is the way that allowed us. The only reason that we defeated the Native Americans was that we adopted their tactics and gained higher leverage on firepower. And that is the exact
No,
argument
it's
that I'm
not.
leveraging against you currently.
The
I'm saying that you
majority of
have
wars
bigger
in
leverage.
history were fought through physical combat. Firearms are a recent invention in the last couple hundred
Yeah,
years.
and firearms
can't
are a
use
force
recent.
multiplier. They're not
You
an
only have to
equalizer.
use
That's what you
that.
don't understand.
Yeah. Again,
course.
so the
And
greatest
my
battle
intellect
minds
against-
were still that of men, right?
But I'm saying
So-
that my intellect against James is a force multiplier because of the amount of combat
Okay.
experience that I have.
But to
Not my
expound on your
physicality.
point, when you state your weight advantage and your combat experience advantage,
My weight advantage is
you-
null with my
oh,
height.
no. Your weight advantage absolutely matters. You are shorter than him, but far heavier. You have a lower center of gravity. If you wrestled, you would know that it is way easier to slam a tall guy than it is a man
not
with
a
a lower
wrestler.
center of gravity.
I'm not
Right?
a
A
wrestler.
lot of wrestlers, a lot of the best wrestlers at heavyweight are shorter, stocky guys like Daniel Cormier, Gable Stevenson. They're beasts, but they're also hard to take down. It's
Facts.
harder to reach down and put your force upon someone who's stronger at that lower level. Now, as a striker, being taller can have its advantages, but there are ways to nullify that. If you were fighting him and you get in the box and you start clinching and dirty boxing with him, you're better there. You have more power there. You have more leverage there.
We're deviating so much, though, guys.
The only thing that
But
the
that's
advantage
besides the point.
I have
That's talking combat.
intellect.
But I'm
the
saying,
intellect is a force multiplier.
if you've
that
trained,
physicality doesn't
if you're
require.
experienced, then you would know that when you're sparring in a gym, sometimes there are, co-ed sparring. You spar with a woman or something. You would know that seriously, you would never throw in sparring more than 2% against a woman. You would know this, right? Seriously, in a fight, a pro MMA woman would not stand a chance against a male amateur. That's not what we do, right? Because it doesn't matter how good you are. At the end of the day, if I throw a round kick to the body and a woman tries to block it, it's going to throw her across the room. It just doesn't matter, right? Men are about 33% stronger than women pound for pound. And
The
men
only
are
thing that
what?
I'm
Usually what,
expressing is
50,
that
60,
it's
70
slight-
pounds heavier?
A slight intellectual advantage is significant unless a physical opponent has that same intellectual advantage. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
You
but
do
women
not
are
sound like
generally
you
not
have
as
anything
phys-
intellectually advantage.
Women are generally have
Oh,
less
baby, I'm
physical
sorry.
on average.
I
On average,
could try
women
better.
have less physical prowess than men. and they're also less physically capable than men on average. So this speaks to the reason
Yeah, but
why
that doesn't
there's
matter in a fight against wits. That
okay.
doesn't
So
matter.
explain. Okay, so here's the thing. You right now, all you have is theory. You have no evidence. All you have is
Everything
theory.
is theory. What do you mean?
No, what is not theory is the fact that right now women have less rights in this country, and most other West outside of the West, women have less rights. And what the hell is their intellect doing about it? Not a damn
They're
thing.
having conversations.
Wow, a
What do you
conversation is
mean?
not going to get you to change laws. What changes laws?
What do you
If
mean? Laws
okay,
are changed by
so if I could
conversations.
just
You don't
finish, if I could
change
just
laws
finish, if
by
I could
having
just
a
finish,
fisticuff match at the
if I could just finish real
July
quick.
6th.
Who's the person who's more capable is the person who has more power. The person who has more influence is the person who has more power. Often, when we're talking about rights, we're talking about laws. Men have more power.
But we can acknowledge that
You acknowledge.
proximity to whiteness
Oh,
has
here
a
we go.
large.
Whether you're white, whether you're black, it don't matter. Look, go to
You
the
just
Democrat,
said
go
it.
to the DR right
You
now.
just said it.
Go to the
You-
DR
we-
right
we
now.
had
Where
a
the
conversation.
white people? There ain't no
You
white people in
just said
sight.
if
Go to
I
the
walk
DR
into
right
a,
now.
if I walk into
There's
a
no
space,
white people in sight. There's
if
still
I walk
patriarchs
into a
that
space
are enforcing the
and
rights
you
of the
walk
women
into
that
a
are over
space,
there.
there's
So
difference. If I walk into a space and you walk into a space, there's probably a difference in the way that we're interacted
you
upon.
just keep bringing it. You just keep strawmanning the argument by bringing it to you're
That's not a
stupid,
straw man.
you're
That's a
dumb.
steel man to your
No,
argument.
it's not. If it's a steel man, then you're going to use an apples to apples comparison. You're not going to use
Okay, the
one man
apples to
against
apples
one
comparison
woman. You're
is
going to
if
use a
we-
collection
if
of
we-
men against a collection of women. That's what I've been arguing this whole time. You've been
If
completely
we walk
dodging
into
the
the same
argument this
place,
entire time.
if we walk into the
If
same
we-
place at the exact same time, I don't get to say a word. You get to walk in. I get to walk in at the same time. Who's getting checked?
Because I look more white, you're probably going to get checked. How's this relevant?
That means that your proximity to whiteness on some level is a benefit, a net benefit to
Okay,
you.
so therefore, women should have rights.
So therefore, proximity to power and proximity to less power means that we have a different level of acceptability inside of a building.
You're wrong again. Here's how you're wrong. If
No,
black people,
what do you mean? You
if
just
black
said I
people
was
as
right.
a collective, if black people as a collective decided they didn't like their state of affairs, there could be a case to be made that they can overthrow.
What do you mean?
For example,
do you like it that if I walk into a room
for
and you
example,
walk into a room
okay,
that
so
I get
just-
accosted and you don't?
All right, man. So, in Haiti,
Do you like
people,
it?
Black people overthrew their slave owners. So,
Do you like that if we walk into the same room that
all
both
right,
of us
at
can
this- at
have the
this
same
point, this guy
upbringing,
is just freaking
the same
me out,
intellect?
man. Is the first person I had? I haven't. This is the first feminist. I'll be honest with you guys. This is the first feminist I had to kick in a long time. It just won't really engage directly with the arguments. Just try to like. I can have all the white privilege. I can have all the white privilege. That still doesn't mean women can enforce their own rights. It's completely irrelevant. I kept trying to explain to him, but he just doesn't want to. Golly, man. Golly. I apologize. Looks like I've gotten rid of our only dissenter.
Yeah,
Thanks for the heart.
I didn't fully understand this point because, like, yes, there's the physical strength disparity, and that has definitely, demonstrably has been important over the course of history, right? Especially considering that even with our previous ways of having force multipliers, it was still at the end of the day physical combat, right? You go out into a field, you're wearing, 50 pounds worth of armor, you're wearing a weapon. At the end of the day, you still have to impose your will over another person directly in physical combat. Right. And then, like I said, throughout history, there's still a mental aspect and intelligence aspect to combat. Right. We've had great leaders, great conquerors, stuff like that. You just never really seen a female Napoleon or Genghis or Alexander or Ulysses S. Grant. You just haven't really seen that much throughout history. And the reason why there's a patriarchy is because it's not just physical strength, but it's dominating the social space that you're in. Commanding respect from other people be like, oh, this guy has a good idea. Oh, maybe we should listen to this guy. So some of it is through strength, but also some of it is through how you control the social space around you, which through a man being larger, having a deeper voice, having a more aggressive mindset. That testosterone doesn't make you violent, but it has been studied that testosterone makes you more likely to act on your impulse. You are more likely to take greater risks. You're more likely to pursue your own will, impose your will on people. And so that's how you get the patriarchal structure that society has built upon, the strength disparity over the years, and that that men are just more likely to go get after it at the end of the day.
But also, we're not living in a state of survival where those traits are necessarily a big influence compared to, like, kind of like what he was saying in terms of intellectual power. So I just don't understand how that was really, truly relevant to honestly proving his point either.
Well, the thing is, our entire civilization subsists, and it without this collection of male force, there won't be any system. For example, if there weren't any police officers, there's nobody to protect whatever right you think you have at this moment. There's less protection of that. The onus would be on you to protect your own rights or your own moral views of yourself and how you should be protected. Whether or not someone shouldn't steal from you. You have a right to your own property. Whether someone should not enslave you. Do you have the right to die to be free? The only people that are in between you and the person who wants to violate your rights is either police, which is the majority of men domestically, or the military, which is majority of men from other countries who want to give you a different way of living. That's a different way how they interpret the rights. So this male collection of force, it exists under most societies that are civilized, that have entitlements, social contracts, constitutions. That is a system that needs men in this collective way. But all Zero kept doing was bringing up anecdotes or you against me or me and him. It's completely irrelevant. And when it comes to this intellect thing, you act like men are not smart as well. It would only make their ability and their capacity for violence even that much greater.
Honestly, when it comes to intellect, any man that sides with this feminist ideology, I automatically think he just has no intellect. The feminist ideology has destroyed our society, and it's just, in what way is it good? In what way has it benefited us as a society? And therefore, if you have the ability to recognize it has not benefited society, but you're still subscribing to it, what intellect do you actually have? Personally.
I think, to your point, the best way, one of the good ways to see if you're actually dealing with a leader is if he's a feminist. You can almost immediately disqualify him because that means he's going to assume equal authority in the marriage. It means he's going to lean more on you to provide and protect. These are things that as a man in marriage, you must lead explicitly and exclusively in this way. Granted, women can work and all that, but as far as protection, authority must come with it because of that. But oftentimes these type of men, they're the type of men to not protect you. They're the type of men to expect you to protect them when it should be the other way around. So
It's a great point. Hey, I appreciate you for having me up here, but I got to get going.
yeah, no problem, man. You're welcome back up.
Thanks.
Devontae Taylor. Fill it up, Taylor. And Devontae.
Hello?
Hello, Devontae.
Hi.
How are you, sir?
I'm good.
What brings you up today?
I just wanted to tell you I have my dick in my butt.
That's crazy. You have a long wiener. That's pretty fruity of you. So, Taylor, what brings you up today?
I guess I was just like listening to the conversation. And like I struggle sometimes with this argument. I do see pros and cons on both sides. Like I'm sure maybe I missed like the first half of it, but I'm struggling with the conversation of like, or the moral conjecture that like, because we can say, you know, generally men are stronger than women. Socially, they have had dominance. That's also partially because of that, like, you know, oh, what am I trying to say?
They're stronger.
Benefit. Yeah, like in society, they've had that like social advantage as well.
That's not social.
But
That's biological.
Let's let her finish her point.
well, no,
Sorry,
I
yeah,
said
yeah.
both.
My bad.
I said both. But what I'm trying to say is like, I struggle with that being a reason to have like moral superiority, I suppose, over a
Okay.
woman. Like that's where I'm like, where's that conversation, I suppose?
All right, that's a good question. Let me just make sure I understand. You saying you know that there's a difference in strength, the disparity being men have that advantage, and you see
Yes.
how historically perhaps that's led to them having a level of social status because it is a patriarchal system, but you don't see how that makes them just to have some type of moral superiority.
Yes,
And
yeah,
when we
I
say moral
suppose it's like,
superiority, are we talking about how, if anyone's steering, who should be steering to which morals? Is that what you're talking about? Who should have the authority to do that?
yes. Yeah, yes, it's like, well, they're steering society, I suppose. Like,
Okay. Well, let me just give you a scenario and bear with me, okay? Bear with me, even though you might not agree. The systems that we have now, especially here in the West, given that women have a higher voting bloc, they have a higher voter turnout than men. They tend to vote more left than men do. And they vote around either single issue, which is abortion, or more social programs or welfare programs, more open borders included, right? So what would be a likely scenario is that more people are going to be imported that is going to be on the welfare state. You see that in systems like in the UK, where, or even in other of the United Kingdom, like Ireland, I think, where the immigrants are coming here because the policy is open border. The policy is we will give you benefits. So it tends to be attracting a lot of virulent military-age men who are doing a lot of obscene things. And this stands to reason that the ones really only capable of protecting them, the women, are going to be the men.
I agree in what you're talking about. You were talking about, you know, fighting age males entering a country. I live in Australia, so, you know, we've got that happening. Like, in terms of physical security, absolutely. Like, I fully agree with you. I even think this kind of goes into the conversation as well of, yes, that's true. Like, securities need men, like, protecting women. Like, it is a whole societal system that does work. Like, we can say that it does work. But, I mean, then when we're in a modern society, right, where there is technology, there is security in the West, a lot of us have become, like, I guess, complacent. And, well, I guess we get to a point where men, this is where like the male loneliness epidemic has kind of come from, where it's like,
real quick, because
because
before
we're
we veer
safer.
into the male loneliness, which I don't agree with.
Mm.
Before we get into that, you were talking about what instruments or technologies make it such that women can protect themselves collectively. I know you can
Yeah,
have a
see,
weapon
the-
in your home, but I'm talking about as a collection, where we have these societies, collections of people. What technologies make it so that women can use that instead of men to be more safe in society?
Yeah, I do see what you're saying. I do somewhat agree. It's like, well, you know, your locked doors and your Ring cameras don't really do all that much when it actually comes to a very real threat. And having a male figure in your house is a benefit, even to the point of I was taught when I was young to put male work boots at my front door if I was home alone.
Smart.
Yeah, my grandma was very smart like that.
A
And
deterrent.
yes, exactly, because men deter other men from violence against women. Again, like, I'm not against the anti-feminist conversation. I'm not, fully for it. There are benefits on both sides, but in terms of technologies, I would struggle to. I struggle to see. Like, I can see the
technology.
social,
Yeah, but
technology. I can see a
the social thing
social.
is really illusory, right? Because if it's really based on the male collection of force. And I'll give you another analogy. If you have a security guard and you're making his job difficult and you're disregarding his requests, can we both agree that he can't really adequately or effectively protect you if you don't listen to him?
Yes, I do agree with that actually fully.
Okay, but I think it's
That
because we intuitively know that you should pair responsibility with authority. If I'm giving you authority in the matter, that means you're more responsible, and vice versa. If I'm expecting you to do something, it would stand to reason. If I'm expecting to protect me, it would stand to reason that you should give me authority. You should defer to me in this particular way. But that is what men are in society. That is what we have always been. And that is the societies that most people, if not all societies, particularly that are civilized countries, are concerned. This is how we organize. We organize around men being expected to protect. How are we expected to protect? We will be drafted. That is a literal obligation.
Yes. Yeah, and I agree, like, if, society were to move towards, a more equal state, then accountability for your own physical safety the onus should be equally on men and women if that's the case.
But women are not capable collectively of doing that. Where have they ever historically been capable to change their state of affairs if men didn't want it? When has that ever when has it ever happened?
It hasn't. Sometimes I struggle with, like, history being a good conjecture, like, for why women shouldn't, just in the sense of, like, well, they haven't been given the opportunity. But I do agree with you. Like, I don't have an issue with what you're saying there. It's like, collectively throughout history, there hasn't really, and you can see that in combat. We can, like, test that in statistics and things. So
Yeah, because when women women are the to be a victim of war in prison or at times of war, women being casualties in that specific way, women
It's
are
always
at
sexual
advantage of,
violence.
right? So when war time is even worse for women. If we want to just control for death, right? Because at least I don't have to get assaulted in that way as a man. If we just control for death. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because the strength is a existential thing. It's not just historicity, right? Strength is the advantage. I can pin someone down. I can hem someone up. I can yoke somebody. I can drag someone. I can weather the storm. I can weather the elements. I can run faster. I can chase. I can dominate. This is a part of man that we enjoy the protection, because as a police officer or as a military man, I do these same things. This is what keeps the bad men at bay.
Yes.
Without me, well, I'm not this. Without me, then this is the same example. If you hire me as a security guard and you disobey all I'm saying, then I don't want to protect you anymore. We don't want that in society.
That's understandable.
That would be bedlam in society if men if they just cross their arms and say, you know what, all this stuff that's going bad, no, I'm not going to do anything. We're just going to let the society collapse. Okay, so if we're not going to allow that to happen, then that means we need to have authority that is at parity, or authority that is coupled with it. And the reason why I bring this up is because this is what makes first wave feminism the original sin. Women by voting are exploiting men in a very particular way that's akin to my analogy. They are making the environment such that they're making it harder for me to protect. I'm going to have to fight immigrants now, people from societies that don't subscribe to my constitution or my morality, my chivalry. I'm going to have to fight them now. But by virtue of women voting, what they're doing is they are, by them not having to be drafted, they are having more authority without any responsibility. If anything, they're putting more responsibility on the men who have to be drafted. That's why it's unjust from its very beginning. And that was actually the original anti-suffragette argument. We don't have to fight the wars. We don't want to fight the wars. We shouldn't be able to vote because of it.
I just want to like interject here on something with that. I do agree with what you're saying, and like in my personal life, I can speak for me. If I were in a situation where physical violence was, in front of me, I would adhere to what a man was saying.
Taylor, you cut off. After you said saying, your voice cut off.
Oh, no, I'm so sorry. I would, listen to what a man is saying, and, give them that authority, right? I definitely did with, my dad in my home or any kind of thing. I think this is where my divide happens. I have no argument on the physicality of men, right? And their authority in that situation, and even their ability to provide security, right? And there should be a given respect that I think is very much lost in between, modern feminism and things. However, I then struggle with other aspects where it's before the first wave, there are issues where men have, if women don't have rights and you find yourself against a man who is not morally virtuous, that exists. Some men are not morally virtuous, so are some women. But if you're in that situation, you are so stuck without help. And it's of course, the first priority, if, men are the only people voting and in government, isn't going to be, hey, let's talk about the rights of women in their homes, and their safety. And I think that's where it's women need community, but it's hard to have that conversation where it's well, how does community of women not turn into feminism?
Well, it's a natural proclivity. I think it's a natural proclivity to want to vie for more power. I think a lot of women tend to have that, but is it a majority of them? Probably not. I think it's a small, or I don't want to veer off. I don't want to digress. So to speak to your concerns about how if men were given this amount of power, what would happen to women collectively?
Yes.
Well, the thing is, we've already had that, and the before the 19th, women were already getting things passed. Workers or child labor laws passed. The 18th Amendment passed.
Can I ask a question?
Or the precursors of welfare passed. National state parks passed. They were already getting things passed. They already had political power. It just wasn't concentrated in this specific unjust way.
They
got alcohol banned in America. You realize that, right?
Oh yeah, no, I know. Women have
Before
definitely
they
had
could vote.
influence in society.
Okay,
Absolutely.
So if men were so oppressive, then why would we let women take our booze away? Our booze? A vice?
Yeah.
Are these type of men really that oppressive?
No.
I mean, I think that when you have somebody in a position of power, which naturally will likely happen with somebody being physically more stronger than another party, you do find yourself in there is an imbalance. I'm not saying that movement can't be made, but I think for the individual in that situation, safety can be important. like, and I even, it's like, I do think like the 1950s kind of ideal of like, I guess like the man home, woman household, it's nice, but like we also know that like that wasn't the case for a large majority of women. Like black women weren't a part of that 1950s like housewife aesthetic and the trad wife ideal.
Yeah, it was the
Like,
ideal, but
yeah.
even with black women, here's the thing about black women and black families. Amongst the highest points of racism, I would argue, we were at least still intact as family units. And even when
yes.
women were nurses or being the help or working jobs, they were still submitting to their men. So there was still, you better believe they were striving towards having one income. Having one income was the ideal, and everybody rallied around that. But just because black women shared some level of household, that isn't what changed, and what's definitely not how it is now. If a woman, what's definitely changed now is that black women, they don't think they need to submit to men at all, especially if they make more money than them.
I'm so sorry. I actually have to go to work, which is so sad. In the context of this conversation, I don't want to go.
Yeah, well, hopefully you can find someone who can retire you.
Yeah, if you guys can find me a husband who wants to stay at home,
hey,
that would be lovely.
remember, this is anti-feminist dating advice,
Please.
so if next time you want to come up and ask for advice, feel free. But
Yeah,
you're
I
welcome
will
back up, and I
forgo my
appreciate the back and
feminist
forth.
ways.
No, that's
thank
fine. You can be a
so
feminist,
much
just be
for-
open-minded. It's all good.
No, I very much see it in a very neutral but thing. I very much think this conversation has opened my eyes, and I do appreciate the candor very much so.
No problem, Taylor. Thank you for coming up.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You as well.
Bye.
Believe it or not, guys, my to everybody in the chat, my conversations with women usually go not as contentious as the ones I have with men. This would just be a patriarchal preference of mine. I tend to be more chivalrous. I tend to let women emote more than I'll allow men. That's because I believe in gender roles. So for everybody in the chat here, would you mind getting the likes up to 5K? I think we've had some good conversations. Even Zero, before it got off the rails, was pretty decent interlocutor. He's a bit verbose, but hey guys, if you want me to make more people realize that they should have less HR, hell, less women in the workforce, hit the like button.
Amen.
Because I have some pretty hot takes. I don't believe in maternity leave. Well, I mean, women should be able to negotiate if they want, but it shouldn't be protected, governmentally, institutionally protected. Hell no. All this DEI stuff. Appreciate the likes, guys. So, Love Dove, welcome back.
What's that?
You're married, right?
Nope. I need to find me a husband.
Were you ever married?
No.
What looks like a good leader to you? What is when you hear or see or hear about a man that is a leader, what does that look like?
Someone who is masculine, someone who takes control of the household, is responsible for, the final say. He very much wants to be responsible for the provisions of the household. He protects the family. He wants the wife to stay home so she can care and nurture her children. She can take care of the household, and then she can care and nurture him as well. That's what a good masculine man looks like to me.
And you make that identical to a leader?
Yes.
Or at least a leading man? Okay,
I do.
so he takes charge, he takes initiative, he assumes responsibility in protecting and providing, and he also gives the women that he deals with the ability to settle down, basically.
To settle into her feminine state, yes. A lot of these women who wanted to forego this feminist ideology, now they're in these masculine states. Now they want to chase careers, and they have these higher levels of testosterone, lower levels of estrogen. They're also having the result of many medical kind of disabilities or caveats with having these imbalance of hormones and higher cortisol levels and imbalance of all that stuff. It's been very unhealthy to women. It's been very unhealthy to children because they don't have that nurturing, caring, soft, feminine mother at home to take care of them. Now they're just tossed into the system where they're raised by, daycare workers and teachers and all that stuff instead of by a mother who actually loves and cares for them. But
Yeah, I think this is uncharted territory, but I was thinking about how you were saying hormonal imbalance. And I was thinking about how many times was I interacting with women at work who were actually going through some part of their period. And I'm just thinking like they're just being a nasty person, but it could just be that. And it's like, maybe women should have like a Teams notification on their status. That should just notify everyone that they're on that time.
yeah, I mean, I agree with that. So a lot of women, a lot of feminists, they don't realize that before the feminist ideology, women have always gone to work all throughout history, but women went to work with purpose. They still had skills, they had knowledge, they had intellect, and they gave back to their community, but their first priority was the home, the children, and their husband. And then women used their skills to give back to their community in a purposeful way that gave them their oxytocin and estrogen levels and made them even more soft and more feminine and more fulfilled. But now with this feminist ideology and women having to go to work just because we need like 2-income household now women, their estrogen levels are dropping, their testosterone levels are rising, they're combative. Now we have high divorce rates initiated 70 to 80% by women. We have, the highest unalivement of baby rates in ever recorded history. We have the breakdown of the nuclear family. We have the highest suicidal rates of young adults, teens, and women and men of like every single category. I mean, it's just been detrimental for all of society for women to want to chase paychecks and not take their home, their children, and their husband first.
I know this might sound offensive, but have you heard of hoflation?
I have. I'm not exactly sure. It's been a while.
Well, there's somebody named Homath who's I think he's on TikTok, and he made it kind of popular because he had this graph that he kind of drew. It'll have like the bathroom picture of women on one side, the bathroom sign of men on the other.
Mm-hmm.
And they'll show like how the men tend to have like a 1-to-1 desire, but the women tend to go like this.
Yeah.
They tend to want to date up.
They
So I
do.
think
It's hypergamy.
I don't mind hypergamy, but what I think has made it hypergamy is feminism, because feminism doesn't really shame women for having certain mating strategies. If anything, it encourages a diverse level of mating strategies. And it just so happens to be that women, when they take on feminism and they couple it with their already baked in mating strategy, it's just going to make it even more hypergamous, because if I'm making $50,000 now, he needs to make it. Why? Because we're equal. He needs to make at least that or more. So it tends to be in line with a lot of feminist principles that they can use to mate select.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They've shown through studies that I think it's like the bottom seven or the top 70% of women. So women that are like level 3 and higher, they go for the top 10 to 15% of men. And so that's how you end up with, you know, 6 different women sharing one baby daddy and just all this stuff because like majority of women, they desire a very small minority of men, whereas we see on the other way around, majority of men desire actually majority of women, but it's just like that bottom majority of men, they just can't get any access to women, and a lot of that is due to this feminist hypergamous mindset and just telling women, oh, you're the prize, you're amazing, you deserve this top tier man, even though you're, you know, overweight, have 3 baby daddies, and just chasing a career and been ran through by the time you're, you know, 26. It's just, it's wild.
Yeah, I think it does add to the delusion because now my education, if I'm educated as a woman, that means I deserve a man who's educated. And if I have political preferences like feminism, I deserve a man who's not only tall, not only handsome, not only well off financially, but he also has to have feminist ideology. It
Yep.
even further lowers the dating selection. Like, first off, that man has to be single. He has to be not gay. He has to be interested in you. And he has to pick you as an option. And he needs to have all these things that are going to make other women attracted to him. It just becomes even more unreasonable. And it further ruins her chances of having a success in mate selection.
It absolutely does. And these women, they just think
I don't need him. I don't need no
it's
man.
why the divorce rate is so high as well. Is all these women think they can, you know, then divorce a man, take half his money, half his assets, and his children, but she's still just so valuable on the market. Like, no, woman, now you're in your mid 30s. You know, you're obviously not a V card holder. You come with children, you come with baggage, you've already taken a man for all he's worth, and now you still expect some like top tier man to pick you and choose you. But then when he doesn't, then you want to go just trash men online. And then you also want to go indoctrinate these younger women, the ones becoming like new, fresh 18 to 21-year-olds, like just entering the dating market as women. And you want to be like, oh no, you need to, you know, go experience your 3 or 4 phase. Like, don't get married young. Don't give a man that access. And men are all just like jerks and evil. And it's a wild, detrimental cycle that the feminist ideology has created for our society.
Memento, thanks for the roses. I think a good this makes me think of maybe perhaps a salesman who's not really good at sales, but has something everybody wants, but hates the people they're selling it to as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Like-
feminism teaches you to hate the men that you're trying to attract. And it becomes like a vicious cycle, like you said. Like being rejected by these men, it's like, oh, that's probably just because he's has internalized misogyny or patriarchal microaggression. It's just going to be some weird way to rationalize it.
Oh yeah, they've made patriarchy like a curse word. They've made abortion like this grandiose thing that is so good for women. They have twisted and manipulated all these things that just destroy a young woman's mind.
And Trey, you're welcome back up. I'm not sure if you disconnected, but let's see. Let's address some people in the chat here. Also, aren't most of her eggs gone? Well, it is unfortunate. where how women go into careers, but oftentimes women are not the best at women are generally not that good at not women generally. I would just say a lot of women are not well versed in good mate selection. So
Yep.
then they just get, so then there's a lot of turnover as far as relationships go, and this tends to make a lot of women jaded. So that makes feminism even more appealing, because if it appeals to your insecurities, like, oh, you don't want him to cheat on you, do, or you don't want to find a man who's going to put you in a financially abusive relationship, you better sabotage your relationships. Or it does give women kind of, I think it appeals to insecurities in that way. Another way is this, like, there are women who mistake men who are indifferent and probably don't care about them as much with men who are gentlemen, but they just won't put up with your BS. But they're often scarred by a man who's indifferent and doesn't really care about you. So they're going to think boundaries are a way to either be manipulative, or this
Or
might,
controlling.
yeah, it'll feel like the past, but it's just a man who's just like, they think bad guys, they have their experience with bad boys very early on, and then they'll think that this is how men are.
And this is why having a father in the home was so primarily beneficial to women, is because a father knows how men thinks. So a father would then go and protect his daughter and be like, no, you don't need to talk to that man. You need to talk to this man. And like, kind of not, I'm not all for like arranged marriages, but I am for fathers vetting a
guided
suitor
marriages.
for their daughters. And feminism has broken down that nuclear family. They have taken fathers out of the home. And now you have women in all these marriages with high DV rates, with all these idiot men that shouldn't have been married to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just want to hate men more because women are honestly completely stupid when it comes to picking a partner.
Having a father in the home doesn't mean shit if he's misogynistic. Yeah, well, let's see how you define misogyny, because if he hates his daughter, he would really, who hates their daughter more? Someone who wants to give an active participation, or someone who doesn't care?
Mm-hmm.
The next, James, how do I survive hypergamy? Well, the good thing is about hypergamy is when it comes to women, and even for men, if you're a lady, you only have to find one person. It's not like you're trying to have like a sequence of successful relationships with many people. You only need to find and land one person. So that's the best part about women's mating strategy and men's mating strategy, is the one you want is really the one you want to die with. This is not playing games here. We're not trying to dick around. So with that as a baseline, Khan, I'll say this. You need to have wits about yourself. You need to have a level of competence, not just in your workplace, but how you deal with others and how you communicate. This will be a benefit because you can really avoid a lot of women who like to play games. I notice at this point, it seems to be a running theme that women... All right, I've been out of the dating game for a while, but when I was on the dating game, I noticed, and the men around me to this day, that women are not really good at communicating, and they're not really, they like to play games, and we don't know if this is intentional or if it's
very intentional.
Whether if it's intentional, it's worse. If it's unintentional, it's still bad. Don't play games with women, because one, if you do, you're going to attract immature women, women who will play along with you when you shouldn't be playing games with each other. Don't play games. Be very intentional. Have competence about yourself. Have your own spot. Have your own car, or be on the way to that. convince women and yourself that you're ready to have someone be in your nest. Once you believe that you've become that person, be that person, live that way, act that way, and women will show up. They're not going to show up asking for your number, but they're going to show up in your orbit, like a satellite to your moon. If you're the moon, they're going to orbit around you. They might DM you and ask you about, hey, I thought your post was funny. This is how they will show up. Or can go and look in social circles that and for women that you've observed. You can do it like in the gym. You can do it in your social circle. So you can either approach or you'll be approached if you're acting in this way. I think both groups can play games. I'm very honest. You're correct. Both people do play games.
Yeah, that was more, sorry, what I was referring to was women. They can be very unintentional, not men. But
The reason why I
both,
think you
yes.
get the perception, the reason why women play more games is because it's their daters market. The market is in favor of them.
Mm-hmm.
Women dictate how the market goes because they're the ones who can accept or reject the first phase. And men are the ones who tend to initiate in this way. Men are women, and on top of that, women are more selective as well. So this further gives them more power. Now, women tend to play more games because it's the home court advantage. I know what you want. And it doesn't just have to be like my body. It can just be me. I know that you want me. And I know that men generally tend to want me. So I'm going to be a little bit more apathetic, a little bit more aloof, less urgent, unless I have baby rabies. But other than that, women they're going to tend to kick their feet up or cross their arms and really not really be impressed by a lot because they see a lot. So they don't really take dating or that time serious. Not all of them, but a big portion.
One sec. I want to address one comment. Oriented Owl. So women are more selective because women have a lower SMEX drive than men do. Women control the access to SMEX. And so they are more selective when it comes to SMEX overall. Where 70% of women, they prefer the top 10 to 15% of men. The majority of men, they are attracted to the majority of women. Even the top 10 to 15% of men, they will engage in at least sexual activity with the top 70% of women. It's not a balance there. It is biological, and that is why women are more selective in a sense, but it doesn't validate them, playing games and being manipulative and being facetious and then, spreading their legs for every single man that comes their way that is in the top 10 to 15% of men, because then she, gets ran through and then she's crying by the age of 30 because, no man really wants a ran through woman.
Yeah, well, Oriental is just, he or she's fighting it, but they're only proving your point. Look how he said, nope, it's because they have more investments in kids. Do you not understand that literally makes you more selective, you fool? If I know that I'm going to bear more responsibility because I'm the one who's going to have a growing belly for 9 months, it stands to reason that I'm going to be more sexually selective. You're only proving her point that she's saying.
Yep.
So another thing, that's what evolution says. That's what we see. Okay, well, by the own thing that you subscribe to, evolution, it only furthers her point of men and women being more sexually selective. The reason it is not relevant. Because you could have just thrown that out. You could just thrown that out. If you guys already agree on her being sexually selective, then her premises that go forward from that and the conclusion she makes still stand.
Yeah, women are more sexually selective, but men are the keys to relationships. They are the keys to a marriage and commitment and a family. That is ultimately what a woman wants.
Do women, no, Oriental, do women have a less sex drive than men? Yes or no? Because I know this is true, that men have more of a high sex drive. You can just look at how societies operate. You can look at not just our societies, but smaller ones. They operate such that men do. Okay. It stands to reason that the more indiscriminate you are with the people you lay down with, the less selective you are. That's just a simple logic there. I don't see how you don't understand. Everybody, can we get the likes up to 5K?
It's fascinating how these feminists think that
And look how he's trying to move to animals. I'm just talking about humans.
don't observe that in other animals. Okay, no, we're humans. We're not animals. I mean, we're of the animal species, but we're talking about humans. We're talking about the most intelligent and like sophisticated of animals.
Somebody's name is Supernova Coochie, and that's a crazy name. Setting is can do better. Let's check on the YouTube side. For everybody on the YouTube side, I'll let your comments derail the chat here. If you have any questions, I'll let it derail. You guys compare us to animals all the time, though. When? Who's you guys? And do we use it in like a passing proverbial way, or do we use it as a scientific deterministic way? That would be a bit different.
I think she might be referring to feminists. I mean, men do kind of consider these feminist ideology women kind of animals because, you know, you didn't save yourself for marriage. You got ran through in college. You voted for sexual liberation, and you think that was a good thing.
Yeah,
it wasn't. We're not like men. Men and women are completely different types of beings. Women were never meant to have multiple sexual partners.
When it comes to feminism and making sure the political and the personal are married, that's basically how all feminists are going to argue a feminist should be. She's going to subconsciously compare how men are behaving to how she is. And it's oftentimes her thinking her way is the right way, and therefore, because things should be equal, the men should be doing how she's doing it. Whether it be showing their emotions, going to therapy, conflict resolution, etc. They're going to want a man, even though they don't know that it's not good for them, who's has more of a female brain. I know it's it's a crude term, but he needs to be going to as much therapy as me. He needs to be expressing his emotions the same way I do with my girlies. This would be a gay man.
I like how Supernova said, I agree getting ran through isn't good, but men shouldn't be whoring themselves either. Again, men and women are different. You need to accept the biological reality. And in the beginning of man, all throughout history, actually men had multiple wives, and that was accepted because, again, we are biologically different. Men, they are hunters on a biological level. They are more meant to, spread seed, populate the earth. It's not necessarily a thing we accept these days, and I think it is perfectly acceptable for us to accept monogamy these days because, we have our earth populated and such, but in a man's mammalian biological brain, they are not like women. They were not actually programmed to be necessarily monogamous for the long haul, personally, and that's my belief. But women are designed to be that way, and that is why women, they secrete high levels of oxytocin in any sexual encounter with a man, because that bonds them to the man, because then they can get pregnant and they need that man around to protect and support her and that fetus. Whereas a man, he is biologically capable of impregnating many women on a yearly basis. He can impregnate, I mean, so many more women than women can get impregnated by men on a yearly basis.
So you're saying it's okay for men to?
I'm not
run
saying
around?
it's okay,
Well, Red,
especially
Love
in
Dove,
this day and age.
how about I clean it up here like this?
Yeah.
What women and men should be doing is not the case that was being made before Red Love Dove answered that question. What men and women should be doing is not what we were making the case about.
Okay.
Are men and women less selective? Are who's more selective, men or women? Those are descriptive arguments being made. Do men care more than women about sexual history? Yes, that is a descriptive argument, not whether that's good or bad. Do women care less about men who have bodies? Generally, yes, this is a case. They tend to not like men who they have to teach. I've heard that very often.
Mm-hmm.
So they like men who are experienced, and more bodies would tend to come with that, especially if you're competent, charismatic, you got money, you got some status. They'll see this really as oftentimes proof, social proof
I
of
understand
his
what you're
competency.
saying.
So
If
it's
an
not so much a moral
objective-
prescription. It's not a moral. Yeah, it's not a moral. Whether
an
it's right or wrong.
It's an objective view on how men and women work. It just sounded like that Love Dove was saying, I mean, she kind of did say that men weren't meant for one wife. She did say that.
Well,
So I was
I tend to
That
not
makes
be.
sense.
I don't really subscribe to evolutionary theory, specifically psychological and physical and macroevolutionary. But that is kind of an argument.
I don't know what you mean by that.
Well, we came from hundreds of thousands of years of being one way. It's because there was a biological reason that afforded us to survive this way. I think that's more the argument Love Dove is making, right?
Yes.
Oh, do you come from an
Yeah.
evolutionary ideology?
Love Dove.
I come from a biblical stance. I do not believe in the Big Bang, but I also do realize that people, animals, everything in our universe does evolve in some sense. So what did work back in the day may not work now. And so, yes, still now, I don't think our societies necessarily, particularly in the West, do accept polygamous relationships, even though that's actually a big force that's trying to be pushed in the West. But I think most of the West, the majority of the West, in a generalization, they don't respect polygamous relationships. They want monogamous relationships. And I think there is some evolution in that biological stance. But I still do acknowledge that women are different than men.
Okay, so you are arguing for the idea that polygamy is okay.
No.
You're not making yourself very clear. I'm not interested in. I think you are mixing up what is versus what you believe. I'm asking.
Okay. Well, so back in the day, polygamy was accepted by many different generations and groups purposefully for, generating the population and protecting women for that stance. Women on a biological stance, even still today, women do outnumber men pretty drastically. But so a man actually marrying multiple women, he could provide financial resources and protection to multiple women. But that was more still back in the day when that was accepted. Now, today's standards in a society, specifically in the West, where we are able to financially provide for ourselves and be financially capable for ourselves, especially a one-unit household, it is more accepted of monogamous relationships. And that is more of what the biblical standard has evolved to. You can even see back in the Old Testament that God, he didn't necessarily like polygamous relationships.
No, he was very clear it was wrong.
He still accepted
When
them,
was
but
he?
there were
When did it
still
become clear that it was
consequences.
wrong? When was it clear that it was wrong?
He said that you cleave to your wife, you become one flesh. He said to be in the New Testament, you are told to be married to one, like a deacon is supposed to be the man of one wife.
Yeah, but
Okay, I
I think Love is
specifically talked
explaining
of the
that it
Old
was
Testament.
allowed, right? It was allowed,
Sorry?
right? David did it. Solomon did
It was
it.
allowed, yes.
Oh.
I don't think at any point that God was
Punitive.
okay.
He was
He
not
wasn't
in
punitive.
favor of it.
I think that that's just what was accepted culturally, and it
Well, no,
became accepted.
God
culturally
is
by-
culture. So God did accept because men still need to populate the earth. Men still need to protect women because women still outnumbered men,
He
and
told
women
man
need
and
to still
woman to
procreate, and women
procreate.
needed protection for themselves and their children. So God did accept it in Old Testament. Now in New Testament, God did specify it is between one man and one wife, and that is where our society, especially here in the West, that is what we subscribe to, and that is what I personally think is best.
Okay, I would disagree, but we're not really. It's semantics.
Well, Red, what if you and Love Dub do agree that monogamy is the best scenario?
Right, that's what I
all other
said. I mean,
forms outside of
ultimately,
it organizing it is wrong.
we come to the. I guess we're technically coming to the same conclusion. I just think her perspective on history is a little skewed, in my opinion.
But that is Old Testament history, correct?
Yeah, you're not far off of it. I just don't think that the New Testament really encourages that behavior. And
No, it didn't
I don't
encourage
think
it. God didn't encourage it. And never did I say God encouraged it, but he did accept it. It did have its advantages in the Old Testament.
I wouldn't even go so far as to say that God accepted it. Like, we all have a will. Like King David, obviously, he had multiple wives. But I don't think at any point God was just, okay, that's just how it is. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Like,
he allowed it, right? Because Joseph did it.
well, he allows everybody to make
did it.
their own decisions.
Um,
But he's
David,
very
Solomon.
clear about the heart attitude of people and how they should treat each other. I think he was very clear in the Old Testament and all the way, back to the beginning, in how the relationship of man and woman should be towards each other monogamously. I think the idea that he was trying to portray based off of his word is very clear. What culture did, what David did, what all of these people did, that's just what they did. You know what I'm saying? Just because it's written in the Bible doesn't mean it's acceptable. So I think it's a dangerous game, or not game, but
framing or terminology.
yeah, I think it's wrong to go so far as to say that God accepted it. I think that's you're playing with fire there, right? He's very clear about how they should have treated each other, how they should have lived their lives. I mean,
Okay.
we know
Okay.
that
Well,
King, hold on. We know that Saul was never meant to be king. But what did he do? He ultimately allowed them to make their own decision. He said, I am to be your king. And they didn't accept that. So
okay.
mankind did not accept God's law, and they had consequences that followed that. I think it's dangerous for you to say that God accepted polygamy.
Okay. So what about incest?
What about it?
Did God accept it at some point?
I think that there's details in there that we're not aware of. Like, I mean, to have the idea that Adam and Eve were the only ones, and that, I think that there is room to say that there were more beings
They
created.
had Cain and Abel and Seth, and they had multiple daughters, multiple other sons. And at some point, those two sons and daughters had to be able to procreate to
You probably have a
advance
point there.
civilization.
But what does that have to do with what we're saying? Because we're talking about monogamy. I mean, I don't
Because,
know
well,
fully
hold
the
on.
history
So
of
it's
incest.
again a point of God realizes that civilization and population need to exist. And
Right.
so
He said,
God
be fruitful and
accepts something
multiply.
for a short term that is not necessarily ideal, but he accepts it because it is how, civilization has to go for it to progress. So, yes, at one point, incest in God's eyes was actually accepted. And without it, we wouldn't have civilization to begin with. And then on a biological level, the Westermark effect, that's a neurological brain thing, that came into play. And so then God created this, neurological defense system from procreating with a close family member and stuff. So God does, I do feel like God, he has a reality. He sets in stone certain things. He didn't necessarily like polygamy. He didn't necessarily like incest, but he understood the reality of actually populating the earth and progressing mankind as a whole.
Even if you
And
look at
then once it came to a certain point, he was like, okay, now let me lay down my law. Now let me establish this is what I intend it to be. Now that we have enough people, now that we have enough diversity included, now this is what I want civilization to be. Now this is what I intend marriage to be. Yes or no?
You want me to agree with you or disagree with you?
Sure.
I disagree.
How?
Because I don't think we understand enough to know if there was full-on incest historically back then. I mean, I just don't think we do.
It's in the Bible that Adam and Eve's
Calm down.
children,
You
they
want me
had
to
to procreate
answer?
with each other.
You want me to answer you? Can you
Yeah, you gotta
Brothers
let
and
her finish. You
sisters.
gotta let her finish.
Okay.
Okay. I know what's in the Bible. I also know that there is a lot left out of the Bible and we didn't physically exist back then. So I understand what you're saying. I understand your point of view, but there's a lot missing there. I don't know confidently enough to say that there was full-on incest in the way that you describe. Adam and Eve, we are talking about monogamy, right? We're talking about the marriage relationship between man and woman and them meant to be together alone without anyone else. That still rings true for how they procreated from Adam onward. And that picture is made clear for us when it comes to them because they had one wife. Each person, as they're described in the information that we're given in the Bible, had a wife, one singular wife. Okay? There was no polygamy going on from the time that man and woman was created until they started procreating, and people became evil, and the fall happened, and things happened after that. Okay, so there's no evidence to prove that God ever is okay or accepts anything other than a monogamous relationship and a man and woman being completely committed to one another. He's very serious about that relationship, so much so that he uses the marriage relationship and the singularity of it, the monogamy of it, as a picture of Christ and the church and the commitment that they have to one another.
Yes, and that is an Old Testament point of view. That is something God established in the Old Testament. Where can you find that in the New Testament other than Adam and Eve? Like, yes, I agree. Adam and Eve, yes, they are the example, but also Adam and Eve were not brother and sister. So, they had children that married the other children. So there were things that happened after Adam and Eve that still procreated society, that progressed human civilization.
Yeah, I think you're conflating fact with God's desire.
No, I know very good and well. God's desire was one man and one woman. God's desire was not for a brother to marry a sister. I know for a fact that, but it still did happen in the Old Testament, and it was for a purpose. It was not desired by God. It was not necessarily condoned by God, but it was accepted for a purpose.
My point is that you are playing a dangerous game when you conflate God's acceptance of something to what he allows to happen, right? It's not the same. God does not accept when we sin. God does not desire that. He doesn't. Does he allow us to make our own decisions? Does he leave us up to the sins of our nature when we choose to continually disobey him? Absolutely.
Was David still favored by God?
Consequences of those sin. Yes, David was still favored by God, but just because he was favored,
David had multiple wives.
It does not mean that every action that David made was accepted and approved by God.
Agreed.
He had a prophet come to him to bring him to the point of repentance. Okay? He had a person murdered. He did a lot of things that he should have never done. And that's why I say that you're playing a dangerous game by saying that God accepts it as if it is okay, even though it is a temporary thing. God is very clear about what is right and wrong. He loves us regardless.
Yes, I believe God established that with Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were not brother and sister. Adam and Eve were a monogamous relationship. I think that is what God intended, but he still had to accept that humanity needed to progress.
All right, so here's what we're going to do, because at this point, you guys haven't gotten to a consensus together, which I know it's not like you're supposed to. You guys just have two different positions. So why don't you guys give yourself a closing on... I'll give you guys a minute each for your closing on this discussion. And who wants to go first?
I can.
All right,
I mean,
so
personally,
the minute is going to start when you start.
Okay. Well, personally, yes, I do think God made a rule and established a rule with Adam and Eve. He decided one man and one woman that were not biologically related. But I think he also realized that humanity needed to progress. They needed to procreate. And especially the fact that God made women more likely to be products of procreation than men. And so there were naturally more women than men in all of history, that God kind of accepted that some men actually needed to marry multiple wives to give them protection and provision. And it was not necessarily his plan overall, but he accepted it. he did not like it, but he accepted it. But then the
All
New
right, time.
Testament came along and he established rule.
My entire point is we just need to be really careful about superimposing what we think that God thinks, because the mind of man is nothing like God. And that's just it. We know the facts. Sin entered the world. From that point on, things happened and we have consequences for it, and the world played out the way that it did. But God does not accept sin, and he never will.
All right, guys. Thank you for that exchange. It was rather tame. Are you guys Red, you've been here before, right?
Yeah, one time.
Are you a feminist, ma'am?
No.
Well, at least you guys can rally around that banner, right? Neither is Love Dove.
Agreed.
Now, I was asking Love Dove about what she considered a leader and what qualities she identifies with a leader as far as a mate is concerned. So I want to ask you the same question, Red. When you're looking for a leader, or when you looked for a leader, if you're married, what qualities in a man comes to mind?
Humility. The ability to be able to acknowledge that they're wrong and to admit to it, because I think that leadership leads with, being an example in humility. I think that strength of a man is assumed. We've talked about, you guys have discussed that men in general have more physical strength, and they have the ability to lead. What's the word? That separate themselves from emotion, and to be able to, come to resolutions and solutions more so than women. They can organize that. But I think that, like I was in a conversation with a guy last night who believed, he said he was anti-feminist, but he was using the Bible to support the fact that women were of less value than men. And I think that humility is one huge characteristic that I looked for in a man, because, it is rare to find a man that is willing to admit that he's wrong and lead in that way. But also, leadership is, to me, one who acknowledges the Lord as their authority in all things, and acknowledges that he's never fully arrived, and that his job is to lead by example.
Okay, so Christian role model, someone who actually convinces you that they're actually Christian, someone who's humble or operates with humility, and a example of that would be admitting wrong. I think you might have been here when I was explaining that to a lady before.
Oh, yeah.
And I would agree with you. If that wasn't you, perhaps we just came to the same conclusion separately. But then emotional control is something you mentioned as well.
Yeah. One that's not afraid to say what he thinks, but can do it in a way that is kind and gentle, but firm.
Are you married?
Yes.
These sound very specific. So it made it seem like you probably already in that situation where you can enjoy someone who's not too. One thing I've realized that I need to do, one thing I realized very quickly when I got married is how I need to really start tempering my words with more salt.
Yeah.
Because I can't really talk to my wife the same way I would talk to my best friend.
Right.
Because their sentimentality and how they receive things is not the same. And I shouldn't expect that of them because I didn't marry a man. I married a
Right.
woman who's going to be more delicate.
Yeah, and I think that's what the scripture very clearly explains, that you are to love your wife like Christ loved the church, with incredible long suffering and patience and kindness and forgiveness. And, um, you know, what is the other scripture? It might be in the same place. You know, willing to give his life for her, you know. And so there is that protection, the picture of protection. But there's always a gentleness with it. You know, it's not easy for a man to be that way. And for women, we are always that way. So that's why we do complete each other. We're able to offer facets of characteristics together that complete each other and paint a wonderful picture for our children.
How about this? What does this sound like to you, ladies, when you hear this? A man's love often can come from his correction of you.
I agree with that.
Yes, I would agree.
See, a man is the leader in the relationship. God established that ever since the very beginning. And I think even on a biological level, scientific level, a man has the more logical brain, where a woman has a more emotional brain. And so a man is more logically able to think out the long-term consequences versus a woman, but he still appreciates and values his woman's intuitive thoughts and appreciation for those thoughts and guidance and direction. But at the end of the day, that is still left up to the man.
I don't know that. I think using the word often is questionable. I think it's. I mean, maybe that's true, but I think there's a lot of times, so many more times, that my husband has shown his love by not simply correcting me, but just being with me and hearing me and respecting me, actually. You know, and not choosing necessarily correction over, you know, just being an ear and being available to offer his perspective.
Well, correction doesn't always need to be direct, right? Sometimes it can be indirect. It's more strategic,
Yes.
such that you might not even notice it. The reason why I
Right.
bring
I
that up
mean,
is because that the mystery is how Christ is with the church. Well, I remember Paul talking to church about how if you're not being chastised or corrected by God, then you're a bastard.
yes, then God, you know, that is definitely a picture of the love of God being part of correction, for sure.
But he's not just
He doesn't.
a corrector, he's also a priest, right? Because that's what Jesus is a high priest.
The husband?
The husband should be.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't to say that people don't fall short, but I do think a husband should be a high priest. He should be the highest authority in the home as far as who are we looking for guidance in the ways of the Lord. This isn't to say that women are not delegated that, because, I mean, Proverbs makes it quite clear that the mother was the one instructing the children and giving wisdom, but just pointing out that if the relationship between Christ and the church is such that Jesus is a high priest, then it would stand to reason that, because it also mentions in there, what is Jesus doing to the church? He's washing her. He's washing his bride with the water of the body of his, or with the water of his word. That's how he sanctifies the church. Okay, well then I have to do that with my wife now. We gotta have Bible studies. We gotta go through the word. I have to give her my perspective. I have to kind of guide her in that way, because that's a duty at this point. That's how I saw it.
Right. You're definitely held at a higher standard, as the leader of your household, and what you allow or do not allow and the direction that your family goes. So it definitely falls on your shoulders as a man.
Yeah, but I think it's also like doctrine. Like I have to kind of steer my family in a doctrinal way, and not just on carnal things too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Well, honestly, that would be number one, right? I mean, because your doctrine is what plays out in carnal things in life.
Right.
Your doctrine is what makes up who you are, what you teach, your morals. Every direction, every decision that you make is based off of what you understand the Word of God to be.
And I think a lot of misunderstanding of leadership and submission, because it's really, I think the way it was intended is not how it's being used. And a lot of men are not worthy of submitting to, and a lot of women who tend to be more responsible in this matter, they're picking men that are just not capable of being submitted to. But it's too late. The
Correct.
cat's already out the bag. They already had kids, or they're already married, so they're now just trying to pick up the pieces of. They're trying to salvage things. So then submission gets this bad rep because there's some bad dude. But the submission really comes from a Christian understanding. It might be loose, but we all as Americans grew up generally Christian, Lutheran, Catholic, Anglican, Protestant, etc. But these principles would have still been confined to that type of paradigm. It's not just submission because I'm a man. It's submission with duties that come with it, responsibilities that the church will hold me to, etc.
Right. And I think that the part of scripture where it talks about, if a man is not obedient to the Lord, that a woman should continue to be obedient to God and show the love of God to her husband, because she could be, basically her whole household will be saved by that
Right.
commitment still. I think that's 100% true. And I've seen that in my own life.
And that's a really high calling to kind of like still submit. Obviously, you're not when sin is in question, but to submit just for the office's sake itself is a pretty high calling for women too.
Yeah, because I think most men who are not raised in that ideology, in general, men just don't see that from women nowadays. But for a man that's not raised in the church, that isn't raised to understand the scripture or anything like that, when you do see a woman responding in that way, it really does make you go, wait a minute, what, like, she actually just, respected what I said and listened to what I said, and, apologized for being wrong, or acknowledged how I felt without getting too upset, or without getting upset at all. Even though I said it kind of firm, I probably could have been more gentle.
Right.
That being an example in that way is a huge thing. And I learned that myself from reading the scripture too, learning that, my husband wasn't raised in that type of atmosphere. And so I had to show him the word of God by being an example of what I learned from it.
Now, for everybody who's not a Christian in the chat, perhaps you can relate in this way. It's very specific, but to the men in the chat. Have you ever met a woman who has a level of grace or femininity or poise? There's something about her femininity that almost makes you want to show a higher level of protection or masculinity, not like bravado, but just more like it puts you on notice to be very, very courteous, that you want to maintain the environment that would allow her to act how she's acting. I think that kind of speaks to how women have a level of influence. Because I've noticed women that I've met in my life, including my wife, where it's like their femininity puts you on notice. It makes you kind of scared. Not of them, but to make sure that you don't damage them, or to make sure that you don't. Does that make any sense to you guys? I know you guys are ladies, but
It makes sense to me
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I think there's a picture of that in how I see my husband too. Like, I think I explained this to you before when I was in the chat last, like knowing what a man is capable of and his strength and how he could harm me and how he could, use his power and strength for violence, but chooses to be gentle and loving and kind and patient.
that's the humility you're talking about, and I think that's
Right.
where
It makes me want to give him everything, literally give him everything he wants.
So this is the
And
thing.
so,
When you're talking about the passage in Corinthians, I think, where Paul is advising women not to depart from her husband who's not a Christian, it makes sense, because really a person who sees a woman being feminine, like really, really feminine, it actually speaks to your heart if you have one, if it's good, if it's the right intent. It speaks to your humility if you're going to understand that you need to be very careful here, that you need to not take advantage.
yes, exactly.
It speaks to your level of justice. So in reality, it kind of gives you the right heart posture towards God's laws, God's behavior, how God wants the lady to be treated. So it kind of like gives you a taste of that. You're dealing with a
Yeah.
child of God.
Right.
So if you're really a good man, and if you really have the right heart and the right character, it's going to show through your actions. If that makes any sense.
It does. That's a good point.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, because that made me think about people, including my wife in the past, who basically put me, just thinking about them or showing how they behave. I'm like, all right, you can't take advantage of the situation. You really need to. I can't put it into words, but I thank you for sharing that.
Well, here's an example. You ever been in a situation with your spouse and you guys are in a disagreement and you're trying to communicate about it, but both of you just can't seem to get your side, like you're not agreeing, and you're just on opposite ends of the argument. I have found through experience that I know that the scripture tells me that he is the authority in this relationship. And regardless of whether or not I agree, if it's not a matter of sin per se, like a direct disobedience to God, and really we're just in disagreement with each other, that it's not easy when I know I'm right. And I know maybe biblically that I'm right on the perspective that I have, for me to shut my mouth and let it go and give it to God. It is not easy, but I have been in a position where I've had to do that. And I knew that my perspective was right and biblical, and he wasn't seeing it from my point of view and from the biblical standpoint. And so we'd talked about it. We'd had several conversations about it. And I realized that I was holding on to wanting to be right, knowing I was right, knowing that biblically I was right, but not showing that in my actions or how I treated him or even how I spoke to him. And so it was this point of contention. And then finally I said, you know what, Lord, this is yours, because at the end of the day, if he has a heart for you and he wants to honor you and he's going to obey you, it's going to be you that's going to change his mind. And I have to let it go. I have to give it to you. And I cannot tell you how many times within days, sometimes hours, that he's come to me and he said my exact perspective and acknowledged it. And he, where when he talks about it, that he gets it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's a God thing. And it came from me being obedient to the Lord, being submissive, humbling myself, and acknowledging that God is in control in that situation and there's nothing that I can do.
I think that is a very wonderful thing that one can experience inside the confines of really having a relationship with God, particularly Christ, right? But that's why submission will fundamentally, that's where submission to me becomes actual submission. It's not when it's convenient, it's not when on things we can agree on, it's where there's vehement disagreement, where both people are entrenched. That's really what submission looks like to me. Because otherwise, you're just doing it when it benefits you. And this isn't to say that men should try and test for this. It's just more like, I find it difficult to convince women who aren't Christians. They don't really have principles or a moral framework to lean on. They just have their head.
Yeah.
They can't trust in something outside of themselves, and even their husband, to do what you're doing, or what Christian women have the access to do.
Right. Well, so I personally, I'm on the spectrum. So I have a more logical, analytical brain than most women. I'm not more so emotionally involved. I'm more analytical and biologically involved, or so to speak. So I think on more of a scientific level, but I still do believe in God, and that's a whole separate conversation. But that is where I believe I do give kind of a unique perspective to other women, especially women that don't like subscribe to Christianity per se, is just like on even a biological scientific level, like we were as women still biologically, scientifically supposed to submit to men. That is why we are physically a weaker species, a weaker sex. That is why we have more of an intuitive, emotional brain, and men have a more logical brain. And that is why men are the leaders. It is so many different aspects on a scientific, biological level that lead to actually God's design of man and women, that I usually try to kind of preach, because I do understand that a lot of the feminist ideology women, they don't necessarily subscribe to, Christianity or
Because it's
any
patriarchal.
religion. Yes, for that stance. But I still do acknowledge those realities on a scientific base. And I'm just like, okay, I'm trying to, relate to you on a scientific level, on a logical level, because you don't subscribe to necessarily the religious level. So that is where I'm trying to, meet you halfway and try to be like, okay, even though you're not religious, let me try and explain to you on a non-religious aspect how this actually works is still on a biological, scientific level. Women were still meant to submit to men. Like, we are built this way, men are built this way, and this is how society works. This is how society functions. It has functioned this way for thousands of years prior to our society, and it has always worked.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that
go ahead, Red.
go ahead. You go ahead.
So I was going to say, I think for people who tend to be more analytical and they think less with their emotions and they're less informed by it, and it interprets less about how they view things, they could they may come to similar observations. It's just that they're less likely, because most moral prescriptions that we observe here on the West, they're kind of rooted in Christian values to an extent. And if feminism teaches you to reject patriarchal values, then Christianity would be no exception, right? Especially because the religiosity of it makes people on the left or Marxist or people who tend to be feminist
Well, I get
suspicious to
that.
it in and of itself. So I guess the reason why I brought it up is because when it comes to how society should move forward, you really have to have a set of morals and principles but you can't really, the more you divorce them from their original use case, like chastity, virginity, or temperance, the harder it is to make a good case for them. So I'll give you an example. Egalitarianism or equity. Equity is a biblical term, and it comes out of Proverbs actually. But the way people want to apply equity is a inversion or bastardization of the principle that was held in the Bible. That is how people tend to use virtues now. They tend to take a little piece of a virtue they want and they want to reject everything else. But it's a package deal, and if you don't do it that way, things go awry without it. Does that make sense?
It does. Honestly, that is where I often do struggle with talking to feminists. I do try to appeal to their logical side because they often do reject the religiosity side, but they still don't want to
They
really
want
appeal
liberty.
to either.
They want liberty. Liberty is a biblical term that Paul talks about in the New Testament. Liberty is in Christ. It's not in bodily autonomy or
Yeah.
the pursuit of happiness. That is actually what the Proverbs talks about, is that actually leads to slavery. Because through the pursuit of happiness, your pleasure is going to lead to just more and more pain and bondage. Because it's indulging in things that make you happy, like going on trips or spending money or romantic relationships. These are all pleasure-seeking things. Having the validation of your career amongst your peers, this is all vain.
Doing what you want to do without having to answer to anyone, being your own God. And that's really what is described in the Bible. That's really what it comes down to, being your own God and choosing your own fate and choosing your own lifestyle and not having to answer to anyone.
Yeah,
And
basically, yeah.
I think it's a struggle to really debate your way through this and try and make a point to those that disagree through conversation so much. I think it's possible, but I think it's very difficult, especially with feminism or anything that's really debatable here on TikTok. Like, there's a lot of topics people want to talk about, and really it all comes down to morality. But it's very difficult to make your position as a believer in any sort of conversation and win anybody over in any sort of conversation, just beyond the fact that people cannot even stop talking over each other and open their ears and listen and have an open mind. But I really think that it's so heavily based on your example and what you show in your daily life. And I think that that's really where it's at. Like, as you live among people and as you are who you are and how you handle the daily stresses of life that people literally see you go through, when you're an example in that way, that is the most powerful testimony. So sometimes I wonder if these types of conversations really, really help. I think they do if you're able to stay calm like this, if you're able to
Carry yourself correctly.
I think it's possible. I think you can pique a few ears or pique some interest, or make somebody think twice about something.
Well, I
But
don't want to toot my own horn. Well, I'm going to toot my own horn, but
yeah.
there's a lot of feminist women are repeat offenders on this panel. You'll be surprised how many women who are feminists who come back.
Yeah, really.
Like, I'm always, well, not always, but I'm often complimented by the people, like, and I know them by names: Drift, Dulcimi, Chadwife,
Chad
Nestia.
Live.
Who else? Tet. There are some feminists that I know that are cordial, but they've told me that they appreciate how I do things here. Just because, I don't know, there's a time and place to tongue lash people, but generally I like to, just be even keel, and especially let the minority position get their word out.
Right. It's
Yeah, of
definitely a
course.
good challenge. I mean, I've been doing this for a few weeks now, and I get like last night I got so worked up, and then I wake up this morning, I'm like, why did I respond that way? I'm so emotional, I'm trying to be more calm and more reasonable and more unaffected by people's words.
You just have to let it.
Well,
You have to let it pass. You have to.
Yeah,
So
it's definitely
well, so
challenging.
often I find my words actually get through to the younger generation. So a lot of women my age, I am 33, a lot of women my age and older, they try to, that are living by this feminist ideology, they try to encourage these younger women that are turned like 18 to 21, these younger women, they're like, no, go to college, chase your career, chase your path, get ran through all
so you're
these
more
like,
firm.
yes, I am.
I think
And
women have a particular place in doing that to other younger
yes,
women, for sure.
yes, and that is where I found my particular niche is with those very young women that are just turning adults that are being led astray by the women that are, my age and older that are trying to kind of like lead them towards a path of destruction. And I'm like, okay, no, let's look at this at a logical level. This is what men want. And this is what women want. This is what I know you personally want on a biological level. And this is what is like reality. And a lot of times they do listen to me. And I've had many of them actually send me messages and be like, thank you for your words. And I'm like, yeah, no problem. But a lot of women my age,
It's hard to be patient with
Yeah,
them.
and here's
yeah.
what I'll say, because I'm going to close off here. I want to look up something here that someone said in the comments that kind of reminds me. I think it's called a Mott and Bailey. Mott and Bailey. So a Mott and Bailey structure refers to. Let me see the rhetoric here. Philosophy. Have you guys heard of the Mott and Bailey?
No.
Mm-mm.
It's kind of like they have a radical position, but
Oh, was it live free or die, the comment?
no, it's the one last Grofigan. And imagine telling women
Grofigan.
not to educate themselves.
Oh,
So
okay.
no one's telling
Hmm.
women not to educate themselves. But what's in question right now is how women are living, and what was posited is Love Dub explaining, should women be sexually promiscuous? Should women be sexually promiscuous? That is what's in question
No.
right now. So
Oh,
if Love Dub is saying, I do a lot of things by trying to jolt these women out of the danger because they're young and impressionable, this person's saying, imagine telling women not to educate themselves. They're trying to make a defensible position. The defensible position is women should educate themselves. But in reality, what he's contending with is, should you be telling women that they shouldn't be sleeping around? It's a lot easier a position to take, which is women should become educated. But that's not what's being argued right now. It's, should women be convinced to live lives of reckless abandon without any responsibility for their actions? That's what's in question. But I think,
Mhm.
let me just look up the Mott and Bailey real quick.
The fact is that women go into college, usually a lot of times it's for, increasing their body count more than educating themselves. I'll be completely honest. I, as a woman, I, I knew so many women experiencing that. that is the reality, is that women go into college, honestly, like they are increasing their numbers in the sexual dating market versus actually educating themselves.
Well, to be fair, men do that as well.
They
Yeah,
do,
but
but
the
it
thing
is
is,
different.
women care a lot less about men sleeping around than
Yep.
women.
Yep.
But here's the Motte and Bailey. The Motte and Bailey fallacy, named after the Motte and Bailey Castle, also called the Castellan Courtyard, is a form of argument and an informal fallacy where an arguer continues, well, they conflate two positions that share similarities. One modest and easy to defend, the moat, and one much more controversial and harder to defend. You see how Grovigan is doubling down on education.
Mm-hmm.
Being educated is not the problem. It's related how women maybe are going to be experiencing frat parties, drinking, and men who just want to sleep with them. But that's not what's in contention here. No one cares if women read books or get an education such that they can probably make more money or sustain themselves. No one cares about that. We care about what comes with it. So if you just saying, oh, well, you really hate education, huh? Let's call them Motte and Bailey.
So in other words, it's like a
It's a argument tactic where you're trying to make the more easy to defend position in front, as opposed to what's really being argued about.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
gaslighting.
So me personally, Gagavin,
It's
so
go
not
vegan.
only
it's
am
go
I on the
vegan.
spectrum,
It's
I am
go vegan.
Asperger's syndrome.
Go
I
vegan.
went to nursing school. I went to one of the top nursing schools in the country, but I did not go necessarily to the classes because I had the intellect to actually like get through the program without having to go through the classes and having to go through the frat parties and having to go through, all of that. And people saw me as weird, whatever, but it's not necessarily an intellect problem. It's a society problem. It's a culture problem. That culture has developed college experience in the West into men and women specifically getting ran through, getting their 304 phase on, getting experience in the sexual market.
Yeah,
And
just more trauma.
that's the problem.
Yeah, what is it? What's the term? Like, why would you try something before you? Why would you not try something before you buy it?
Oof.
Right? Yeah, that it's gross to hear it, but it's so common. They've been desensitized into this ideology. I mean, I see it everywhere. I homeschool my kids, and thanks. I have done that for 10 years now, and I just went back to work full time for financial reasons. And now I'm, in society, working, dealing with people on a regular basis and working with young kids, 15, 16, 17. And it's just insane what I'm seeing happening in public schools. And let me tell you, they will never go back to public school. I don't care what I have to do. It's sad, like she said, body count,
There's a lot of degeneracy on the young
A
kids.
lot.
Like the culture, the rap music, the freaking the music, even like the innocent stuff, like the stuff you hear in freaking Starbucks. Even the like the Katy Perry's, the Chelsea Handler? I'm not sure the names of these singers now. This complete degenerate stuff.
I mean, even in the homeschool community, like since 2020, homeschooling has risen incredibly, right? And so people have pulled their kids out in droves. And so we're even seeing it now being mixed into the homeschool community. And, homeschool kids, they've been in public school their whole lives. And so then they get pulled out and then they're now an influence around, your homeschool child, because homeschoolers are trying to get together. Social media has allowed homeschoolers to change the scene incredibly because they're able to connect, they're able to grow, they're able to do more things than they did 30 years ago. And so now we have to worry about that because 20
So you're
years
saying you're
ago,
being exposed to the kids who were in the network of
yeah, my kids
homeschools?
my kids are very easily exposed to other children that have experienced this in public school. And so you have to be even more careful, even with other homeschooled kids who
Oh, I
you allow
see.
your kids around, because I mean, now virtual school's a thing, right? And so they think that virtual school is homeschooling because they pulled their kids out of school and they're using the public school system. And so they're joining co-ops and doing things for social activities.
hmm
And these kids are dating each other and their parents don't have the same morals that most
Yeah, it can easily become a
you know
polycule.
oh yeah, I mean, I, like it's crazy. The parents are not caring about what their kids are doing. It's normal for their kids to sleep around and stuff at
Oof.
15, right? It's accepted for them to do that because hey, I did it when I was 15, I
At
did
15?
I did worse thing. No, I'm like saying what people say. And
Yeah, I know.
well, actually, no, I'm not going to go there. Um
Oh.
But yeah,
yeah.
even the girls like now, I'm just looking at some of the artists. Tyler has a song called "Make Me Sweat, Make Me Holler," some weird perverted
Oh
song.
yeah.
Oh gosh.
And then
Yeah.
I said Chelsea Handler. It's not the incorrect. I meant Sabrina
Oh my
Carpenter.
god. Chelsea Handler's the SNL
Right, she's a
chick,
quack
right?
as well, but for different
Oh
reasons.
wow, yeah, she's
Ariana
terrible.
Grande, she's like a malnourished lesbian now. I don't know what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
A walking
SZA is always
skeleton.
talk about some failed relationship, situationship.
Taylor Swift.
Beyonce lives a double life. She tells her bees to live independent, but she's with a man who's an adulterous person. Taylor, I don't know much about Taylor, but I've heard some of her songs that I didn't agree, but I don't know like particularly her subject matter. Does she
Well,
have songs that are kind of like?
she's up
Is she the
men
one
and
who's talking about
sticks
kissing
around.
girls and liking it?
That Katy Perry.
No.
That's Katie. Okay,
Yeah.
so Taylor's
Yeah,
just different.
Taylor's all
Yeah,
about
too.
like monogamous relationships, but
Is she married?
Well, she's
she
what's that
just
song
got
she did?
married.
Yeah, she just got married to that football player or something. But she did
Kelsey.
that song.
Travis
She
Kelsey.
did that song where what was it? The List song where she's like
Talking about
oh
having a
my
list of
gosh.
bodies.
It was oh, I'm trying to think of the words of the song. I hate it with everything in me, but what
Either
did
way, she has like 50 songs about sleeping with different men.
Oh,
and
jeez.
well, she's also dated around like crazy, right? She's been through them, and I think that's what that song is about. Like she's psychotic, right? And
Mhm.
she gets crazy, and it should be accepted for her to be crazy and act an absolute fool by these men. And then she's like, checking you off my list, like,
Like it's just some
burning
other
through the
number.
bridges. Right.
And that's what
And she's
feminism
married to a
does.
guy that doesn't even like her.
Well, I mean, she probably deserves it if she's poisoning the youth in this way. I think the problem
Yeah.
with feminism is really it's like in the air we breathe. Hell, I might even have feminism that I don't even know about at this point. It's just that it's become so cavalier to treat relationships and dating and how women view relationships. It's like completely co-opted by not just the education system, but even worse as far as the media you consume to like Housewives, the Housewives show in the early
Oh my
2000s
God. I
to
can't
Sex in the
stand
City to
reality shows.
everybody
make
treating
me
sex like so
so
casually, cavalier, handshake.
Okay, no, Desperate Housewives was not like that.
Desperate Housewives wasn't like that. They wasn't sleeping
No,
around.
no.
Okay, well, I'll stand corrected on that
Okay.
one. But Sex in the City,
The way that they
There
talk
was
to each
one. There was
other,
one,
and
Edie.
I don't know that show, but I know that an ad of that show was enough to turn me off to it. I
It
can't.
was, yeah.
because that's where
Yeah.
Eva Longoria kind of got popular, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Well, guys, I think we're gonna close off here, just so I can end a little bit early.
All right.
Red, I appreciate you coming up. Welcome back, and so are you, Love.
Thanks.
All right.
So I'm gonna
Peace out,
drop you
peace.
guys down. All right.
All right.
Peace.
Good night.
Peace. Night. Night. Peace. Peace. So, guys, I appreciate you guys coming along. I think the conversation that Love Dove and Red had was definitely insightful. I didn't know. I was kind of indifferent on both sides, but I think both of their points they made about polygamy was a pretty good discussion. Let's see. Ghost says, "Yay, woo! You guys know what lyrics are about. What is your point?" Well, this is another thing, Ghost. Here's the problem with the way you guys think, Ghost. Words have power in they have power behind them. Right now, if I say one word, I can get ended from this live. And I would argue the word is innocuous. It has to do with someone's cognitive disability. Starts with an R. Words are very powerful, and we treat them in such a way, and we have enforcement around how they are used, because that's how humans behave. Words are not just something that you fill in between the beats of a song. They have meaning, and they outstretch to how they influence other people. When a person says bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks, well, if they don't have a father in the home, they're more likely to really internalize such dumb songs. To say, you know what, they're correct. If you're a woman, you're nothing but a HOE or a trick. Okay, well then, the culture around the music and the media being created will be identical, or will share a level of cultural value sharing that the lyrics have. People who ascribe to those lyrics, you're going to find cultures around that's ascribed to those similar values. This is just human nature at this point. It's how you indoctrinate and how you massage ideas into a population. Why do you think the black community is so effed up right now? Because the culture and the people that we idolize are degenerates or drug dealers or life enders like King Von. We celebrate violence. Okay, well, Taylor Swift, SZA, they celebrate constant failed relationships. A new song, a new problem with a man, a separate man. SZA always talking about when are you going to come back. So, for people who don't understand this, perhaps they're just not. Yeah, they're either trying to gaslight you or they're that ignorant. So, why is it important that the culture becomes captured? Because that's how you move conversations forward. That's how you move values forward. And if the culture is upside down and feminism is being a part of that culture, well, it stands to reason. You have to look at the feminist principles. How is it that rap has become an ally to female rappers? Or how is it that feminism has become an ally to female rappers? Well, because they are promoting sexual liberation. They are promoting trying to broaden or get rid of social taboos around certain behaviors. Female degeneracy and promiscuity being one of them. The feminists would label that sexual empowerment. You listen to music on a surface level and completely wrong. Yeah, well, I'll be happy to have a discussion with you on that, because you're actually, if you take music at its surface level, it would just be the beat, and the hook doesn't mean anything past its hook. But looking into the terms, if you just read it out loud, if someone just read this to you while you woke up, if you were in the gym and there wasn't a beat and someone was just constantly affirming certain lustful desires in your head, you would say, this sounds like brainwashing. It's just how the mind works. The mind works such that it recognizes and associates things being said to it to start to have it have its effect on that person's reality. I mean, it sounds pretty simple to me, but yeah, you're definitely just saying anything All right, well, congratulations. Allow the black community to continue to be a laughing stock to every race, because we can't get our shit together and we don't want to police our own behaviors. So on that note, we're going to give this gentleman a L in the chat, because he basically wants the black community to be a permanent ghetto. So on that note, thanks for the likes, guys. Thanks for coming on. And if anybody wants to be notified next time I go live, just hit me with a follow button. All right, we're gonna end this. We're gonna end this live with a big ass L for the black community. See you guys Saturday, if not sooner. Nigga's always in the chat. A nigga is never far from the conversation. So anyways, on the YouTube side, thanks for stopping by. Remember, I'll allow any comments to derail the panel. And on that note, I'll see y'all next time. I think I went live for like, what,